Welcome in to another live draft coverage here at the FFPC YouTube. I am not Eric Balkman, as you can see. I'm Aidan Liquorie, the FFPC's media and marketing coordinator. I'm going to do my best to fill Balky's shoes today. Joining me, as always, FFPC's resident draft expert, Dave Terp. I give you that moniker, but if you go look on your Twitter, your nephews today had quite the
did a
draft.
way better job in some of the drafts I've done.
I mean, some of our live streams that we've been looking at, and we see some of those teams and we rip them apart like we're going to do tonight. And your nephew's A plus. Like, I'm not, no exaggeration.
I
not
can't
saying
say
that
anything
because they're
negative
younger.
about what they did. I mean, I wasn't really a thrilled about the Damian Pierce 6th-round pick, but my one nephew's name is Pierce, so I mean, he didn't get crazy. Everything went well. They enjoyed themselves, so we had a good time.
I mean, High Stakes Bros Twitter, as our friend Fantasy Mojo, let's refer. They got some of those guys. Let me tell you,
they did. They got a lot of. I mean, Cortland Sutton picks make me happier than ever.
Cortland Sutton is, I mean, we did it. We did our all preseason hype team. You and me threw that up there on the Twitter. Cortland Sutton's certainly on there. Without further ado, let's get into our draft board, and let me get a real quick refresh here, and let's get a move on. First 7 picks are already off the board. Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson goes second. Christian McCaffrey, Kupp, Chase, Eckler, and then Stephon Diggs. So Terp, first question for you off the bat, because usually the first 6 picks have really solidified themselves. The 6 guys who went today. Order varies. My question for you is, because I know there's been some guys like, is there any guy outside of the 6 who you think has a legitimate case to be included with the Jonathan Taylor, Jeffersons, CMCs, Kupp, Chase, and Eckler? Is there any guys? Or
Easy
just
answer.
6?
The guy who just went 7. I think Stephon Diggs could easily be the number 1 receiver this year. I drafted him the last best ball draft we did, 6 overall over Chase. I would take him right in that range, just in the main event if I have that option. I just feel like with Josh Allen, last year, there's a lot of weird stuff that happened with Diggs. I mean, he should have caught a lot more touchdowns. There was a lot of pass interference, a lot of weird stuff that just happened. So with all the targets that he gets, I just feel like if Josh Allen stays healthy, Stephon Diggs could easily be the number 1 overall receiver this year.
Terp, Justin Jefferson, 2nd overall. Do you like it? Are you wary? Should that be a CMC pick?
People are scared of CMC. I mean, and I get it. The last couple of years, he's let you down. I mean, after that record year that he had, but I mean, if there's ever anybody that I'm going to take over CMC, it would be Justin Jefferson. I just feel like the ceiling is so high with him, especially in the new offense. It's going to make him the new Cooper Kupp. I don't hate the pick. I wouldn't personally make it. CMC would be my number 1 overall player. He will always be my number 1 overall player. Justin Jefferson is my number 2 overall player over Jonathan Taylor. But I don't think it's a bad pick at all. I mean, McCaffrey, just people scared of him. Like, I feel like you're either in the I love Christian McCaffrey or I don't want to touch him because of his injury history. I'm always going to take the upside.
Is Cooper Kupp, does a Stafford arm? I know we talked about it a while back. How much does that scare you?
It does worry me. I mean, more blurbs coming out. Today it's going to be an injury that is going to be potentially lingering all season. It could be nothing. A couple of years ago, Dak Prescott had a similar thing. Never was affected really. So could it be just big smoke and mirrors? It could be, but the coach coming out and he said, "Oh, he's going to be okay. He's going to be ready. We're going to manage it, and it's not going to hurt him too much." But it's still an arm injury to a quarterback who throws the ball a ton. And obviously with Cooper Kupp being his number 1 guy and being in the top 5 overall, it's a little bit of a worry. I mean, one of my bold predictions, I'll say it now, is I think Stephon Diggs will finish higher than Cooper Kupp this year by a good margin.
Terp, we were literally talking on right before we got on this stream about how much the Thursday night game affects the FFPC main event drafts the following 2 days. Cooper Kupp, let's say, goes off, does what he did all last year.
Number 1 overall.
Number 1 overall?
Almost every draft. If he goes a 30 burger, he will go number 1 overall in almost every draft because every 1 or 2 owners.
We may have lost Terp here. Well, don't know what's going on with Terp's stream there, so I will have to carry the load until he returns. Finishing off that first round, Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, a running back run. Kyle Pitts is the first tight end off the board in the second, followed by Alvin Kamara, and then Travis Kelce is our second tight end. We'll work to try and get Terp back on the stream real quick. Seems as though he's having a Wi-Fi issue of some sort. Kyle Pitts, first tight end off the board. We've seen that a couple of times here. Certainly surprising. But I think me and Terp just mentioned it, and Terp's texting me now that he's coming back. But the high stakes bros on Twitter, as Fantasy Mojo loves to call them, certainly have their guys. Kyle Pitts is one of them, and this is one of those situations where back half of that first round, you're the 12th pick. You got to go get your guy. If you value Pitts over Kelce, you got to go get your guy. Davante Adams is the 5th receiver off the board, and DeAndre Swift follows it up as we are midway here through the second. Alvin Kamara, running back 9. And when Terp gets back, I want to talk about Alvin Kamara. I think this is absolutely ridiculous that Kamara is going this late. Alvin Kamara in 10 games with Jameis Winston, 93.5 yards total he's averaging. He's had a touchdown per game with Winston, and that's 5 targets per game, 4 receptions. 17.4 fantasy points per game is what Alvin Kamara averaged in his career when Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback. I understand there's a looming suspension concerns. I feel like that's been pretty much already shown to be not a factor. By all accounts, that case is going to continue getting pushed back, and the NFL won't make a ruling. And Terp, he is back, adding back to stream. Nothing like
literally no clue. That's never happened to me before. I'm literally sitting here talking to myself for the last 2 minutes.
Nothing like
sorry about that.
No worries. Nothing like some technical difficulties in my first show. I was just talking.
Seriously.
I was talking to myself and to the viewers about Alvin Kamara. He went at running back 9 today. I was just giving you some stats. Alvin Kamara, 10 games total in his career with Jameis Winston as his starting quarterback. In those games, he's averaging 93.5 total yards, 4 receptions per game on 5 targets, and a touchdown. He's in 10 games with Jameis, 10 touchdowns, 17.4 fantasy points per games. That, if let's say you extrapolate that over last year, he's running back 3. And I was saying the suspension concerns seem to have been lifted. By all accounts,
they're gone.
They're gone, right? That's he's probably getting a 6-game suspension once that case
next
gets
year.
handled.
Who cares about next year?
What my essential question is: look at the names going in front of him. Dalvin, Najee, Derek, Joe Mixon, and Saquon all went. I'm taking Alvin Kamara before every one of those guys, and you can make a case before Austin Eckler too.
I would take him before. To me, he's my 4th running back overall. Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara. That's how I would rank them. I mean, you can mix in Eckler and Cook. I mean, DeAndre Swift, Najee Harris, and Derrick Henry are a pass from me. Joe Mixon, I guess you could take him, but not really crazy about him either. But Kamara with Winston, there's no Taysom Hill. There's no Taysom Hill issue anymore, so you don't have that worry. I took him in my main event today that I drafted earlier with my dad. We started Chase and then got Kamara on the way back. Very happy about that, from the 6th slot, I think we were.
Mm-hmm.
So the sky is the limit with Alvin Kamara. I mean, nobody behind him. Mark Ingram, stop.
And
there's no young, hungry guy. It's Kamara's team, and I think he's a top 5 back this year.
I just don't understand. And let's say you are worried about this suspension for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Why are you drafting Dalvin Cook then? Dalvin Cook is guaranteed to miss multiple games this year. He is 100%. Yet to go this season. Najee Harris, rookie.
Saquon Barkley.
I mean, Derrick Henry and now Najee both having Lisfranc injuries. I just don't see. I mean, McCaffrey. I mean, the Alvin Kamara should be going first round in my opinion every single time, and it's generally ridiculous that he's not.
1,000%.
DeAndre Swift goes at RB10. I feel like you've hinted at it here and there in passions, but you haven't really fully talked. Are you all over DeAndre Swift this year?
He's one of my high. Alvin Kamara, DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley. When they were free, I was just getting them and taking them in every draft. Now I'm taking them just as much. I mean, obviously they're higher now. They've moved up in drafts. Very high on Swift. I mean, Deuce Staley's going to coach him up. If you watch Hard Knocks, you always get the Hard Knocks bump a little bit. So I'm definitely high on Swift. He was definitely an end of first round pick for me. I would take him over Mixon, take him over Henry, take him over Harris. I would probably take him over Dalvin Cook, in main events, definitely. I just feel like his upside is a crazy amount of catches. Add in, the fact that, they love him in Detroit. You see that through Hard Knocks. Jamal Williams is a lot of smoke and mirrors. He's a good player, but DeAndre Swift is the talent, and they know that.
I mean, Swift, it's 75 plus receptions is absolutely on the table. He's going to get targets galore there.
You could even say higher if you really want to be bold.
Ridiculous.
It's a possibility
talent.
He could be a 100-catch guy. It could be a Christian McCaffrey type of season if everything goes right.
I don't think Eckler can get there. He's probably second looking at on the list of guys who can conceivably get 1,000 and 1,000 behind McCaffrey. He's number 2. Finishing up that second round after we went through the first 5 picks there. Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, CeeDee Lamb, Mark Andrews, the third tight end off the board. Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, and Javonte Williams closes out that second round. Javonte Williams, Benjamin Albright, Broncos reporter, came out today. So he did a Twitter Q&A, or it might have been yesterday, Twitter Q&A, and he said, someone's like, what about Javonte? What's that workload? And he goes, or he's something along the lines. He said, fantasy owners won't be happy. It's going to be like a 55-45 split with Melvin. Does that take you off Javonte? Is there a round that you're comfortable with, or does talent win?
A friend of mine texted me today and was like, are you worried about your lack of Javonte ownership? And yeah, he definitely has the upside that could win leagues. But everything that I'm seeing, Melvin Gordon's not going anywhere. And I'm buying into the passing game. I'm buying into Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Hamler, Alberto. They're the guys I'm buying into. And if Javonte Williams' second round, it's the same thing with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's a great NFL running back. No one's ever going to take that away from him. He might be the best pound-for-pound running back in football, but still has Kareem Hunt. Doesn't have Deshaun Watson to help him. Yeah, I know down the road, but we're talking about now. To take Nick Chubb in the second round over a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who's going to be just destroyed with targets, is just a bad misstep, in my opinion.
And Nick Chubb, we know you're not going to get receptions from him either.
Unless Kareem Hunt gets traded. And even if Kareem Hunt gets traded, I don't think it helps him that much.
No. And now granted, last year, the defenses were ganging up to stop the run as Baker had literally one arm. But with Jacoby Brissett, loading the box, there has to be some concerns. That's one of the higher I've seen Nick Chubb go in recent memory. If we go look at
the 4th round of my main event today,
if I'm going to look at Chubb's ADP over the last couple of days, it's been middle of the 3rd round. So that's a crazy reach there. I mentioned briefly, just circling back to the start of the second, while you were frozen over there, Kyle Pitts, tight end 1, and that early. Is that just a case of I want my guy? He's not going to get back to team 12 over there in the 3rd. Is that just I think I'm a Kyle Pitts believer. Let me go get my guy.
It's the longest I've probably seen Travis Kelce fall, so I'm very surprised with that. Kyle Pitts is my number 1 overall tight end this year. I just think the upside's too there. I love the player. Marcus Mariota, we saw what he did with Delaney Walker a couple of years back. So the opportunity is going to be there. It's just that the coaching staff just, gives him the matchups that he can exploit and tries to keep him outside against the number 1 corners. We don't want that. We want him inside, matching up against the linebackers, matching up against the safeties with the mismatches that he can exploit. I have no problem taking him as a tight end 1. It's definitely bold, but people act like there's such a big difference between him and Kelce and Andrews. I don't really think there is.
The positive touchdown regression, I don't want to jinx him here. It's going to come. There's no way he has one touchdown.
They're a bad team who will be throwing the ball a ton. Drake London will help them, even though I'm not the biggest Drake London guy. He will definitely help Matters.
It was Russell Gage was their receiver 1. I know you love Russell Gage. I believe Gage was banged up at points last year too.
Exactly. Calvin Ridley, was a disaster.
Yeah, in more ways than one.
Literally.
I like the pick. Kelce, does he concern you at all? You said Pitts is your tight end 1. You're surprised. Is there age? Age is going to be a factor at some point. In
the FFPC format of all the best ball drafts I've done, I don't have a single Travis Kelce team. I don't have a single Mark Andrews team either. I like the guy. I like Kyle Pitts, first of all. He's my tight end 1, so I have a couple shares of him. But I also like the second tier just as much. I just don't see I can never see myself taking Mark Andrews over CeeDee Lamb. I can never see myself taking Mark Andrews over DeAndre Swift or Alvin Kamara or Saquon Barkley. We can get down on the list. Even Aaron Jones, frankly. I just can't. The Ravens threw the ball a ton last year. The defense was destroyed. They were behind in a lot of spots, a lot of positive game scripts. Rashad Bateman, I think, is going to take the next step this year. You can get him 3 rounds later. I know with the FFPC format, tight ends get pushed up to a crazy amount, but no Andrews, no Kelsey for me. We talked about the age. Kansas City has a lot of questions to me. I'd rather take the cheapest guy and Sky Moore. It might not work right away, but Travis Kelsey is not on many teams of mine.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll get into kind of some of those rookies as they get drafted. Terp, team 6 here. We already talked about Chubb a bit. Then they go Kittle, round 3, tight end 4. Is this an early team on our hate list that we're looking at?
It's 1,000% an early hate owner. I would have took Diggs definitely when I wouldn't have took Chubb in the 2nd. I wouldn't have took Chubb in the 3rd. I wouldn't take Chubb in the 4th.
They've had two.
Chubb is not going to be on any of my teams.
2 guys they've reached for by a full round. Kittle last 2 days in the main event 4.7, Chubb 3.7. So that's crazy. Recapping this 3rd round here: Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Leonard Fournette, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, George Kittle, Mike Pittman, Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton, Zeke Elliott, James Conner, and Travis Etienne, your guy, Travis Etienne. I want to first direct your attention in pick 3.2 and then 3.5, Leonard Fournette and Mike Evans. You were big Mike Evans early on, a couple of months ago when we started the cycle. Buccaneers, known offensive line concerns. Brady's not a mobile quarterback. Personally, for me, I view that as Leonard Fournette's going to get a ton of dump offs like he did last year. Maybe if he stays healthy, could be even more because Brady's just going to be checking it down because that pocket is going to be collapsing. Is your Mike Evans love still as it was? Because I remember when the Julio Jones signing happened, you were on the stream like, give me the discount. Why is Mike Evans as it just?
I still have a lot of Michael Evans. I still am a big fan of him. I still think the talent's there. Obviously, the Brady connection. Chris Godwin being a question, Russell Gage being hurt. Supposedly he'll be ready for week 1. No real tight ends to worry about. The offensive line just has me worried. It just comes down to like the 1v1 matchups. Do I like Evans over Pittman right now? A month ago, 2 months ago, it might have been different. But right now, when it comes to main events, I don't. I like Pittman. Cortland Sutton, we know. Definitely. DJ Moore, I think is quite close.
Yeah, I mean, DJ Moore, wide receiver 11 is ahead of Mike Evans in this draft.
I don't think I would pass. Evans would definitely be a 3rd round pick for me. Like if those guys that I mentioned were gone, but I just feel like their upside's a lot higher than his right now. And the offensive line just works. Something about Tampa Bay this year, like I know people say like it's Tom Brady, and I'm a big Tom Brady guy. Something about Tampa Bay scares me this year. I think the wheels could just come off. Especially with the offensive line has always been Tom's Brady thing. He never gets hit. He can't move, but he always figures out a way. This year with all those injuries, it's a worry. It's definitely a worry.
Is it easier to be a Tom Brady guy being an Eagles fan, knowing that they won the Super Bowl over him? Or if he had beaten,
I try to keep that bias out. I mean, obviously they did beat him in the Super Bowl, which is a big day, very much enjoyable. But I mean, I was a Tom Brady guy before that, and I'll be a Tom Brady guy forever. I mean, he's my favorite NFL player of all time.
Tom Brady ruined my childhood. So
I know. I mean, it's a tough time.
Despised him. A couple of guys on your hate list: Zeke Elliott, James Conner, go back to back at the end of this 3rd round. Team, I want to talk before we get back to those 2.
There's a lot. I'm going to interrupt you real quick. There's a lot of teams that are making a running for the worst team that I've seen on a live cast so far. Ezekiel Elliott in the 3rd round. Stop it.
I have some points on Zeke though that because I saw you were on Twitter that you have 1 total share of Ezekiel Elliott.
250 teams. Nick Chubb is the same answer to that question too.
What was the situation where Zeke, did he fall? Was it an accident?
I think it was like a 5th round Zeke, like where I had 4 receivers to start, and I was just like, all right, let me just toss him on a team, like a draft that was not expensive, not something I'm like invested too highly in, a best ball like cheaper draft. But yeah, I
don't hate Zeke as much as you do, and here's why. Torn PCL last year, right? Severely limited. 7th most carries, still had 12 touchdowns, and was the 7th most targeted running back. The O-line's concerned, kind of a similar way I'm thinking of Fournette. I think Zeke just going to get that was all with Tony Pollard too last year. Now, Zeke's health is beginning to be a question mark, but volume is key. I just think that, again, maybe the third round, but in the fourth round, I think Zeke is more like, I don't think you probably consider him kind of want to start maybe the dead zone of an ETN. I don't think he is. I think he provides value with the amount of touches he's going to get. I think my one concern, which you and Balky have talked about on stream, is the fact that Tony Pollard's in the last year of his contract. Are they just going to use him more than they have? But Pollard's been talking, they're going to use me out of the slot. I'm kind of buying into Zeke. Yeah, it feels like one of those training camp rumors. I'm buying into Zeke just because of the touches he's going to get. The O-line is a bit concerning. They signed your old friend, Jason Peters. Let's see if 52-year-old Jason Peters. Jason Peters wasn't terrible last year in the Bears, by the way, which was nuts because his last 2 years on the Eagles were horrendous.
Horrendous. He was a turnstile.
You going to school in Philly and then watching those games with literally pretty much everyone.
I mean, Wentz just got murdered. He was literally just Olaying guys back to Wentz.
It was literally just a Jason Peters, just absolutely them ripping him apart every time. And God knows the radio guys.
Oh my God.
Not bad, but no, that's my point. I'm buying into Zeke, but you said, let's go back to, you said a lot of these teams are, which teams are you just terrible start? By the way, team 2, they have my early eye for the fantastic start here.
I'm in on 2. I'm in on 5. I'm in on 12. I'm definitely not in on 10. I can tell you that right now. They got, oh no. Like, let me make one statement on Ezekiel Elliott. I would never draft him in main event, would never draft him in the football guys, would never draft him in a best ball. But Ezekiel Elliott's not a bad pick for a certain structure. If he's a 5th round pick, if you can find a way to get him there, and you're starting 4 receivers, all right, fine, cool. If you have like a Jefferson, Brown, Higgins start, and you want to take Zeke at the end of the 4th round, whatever, go ahead, knock yourself out. It's not something I would do, but it makes sense for the structure of the team. To take him when you have Derrick Henry and Travis Kelce, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, catching everyone up on this 4th round. Mike Williams, then Josh Allen, Deontay Johnson, Gabe Davis, Darren Waller, Dalton Schultz making a 4th round appearance, and then a run on receivers, Jalen Waddle, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Marquise Brown. 2 names, guys who are, I think Waddle should play, but questionable for week 1. Chris Godwin and Jalen Waddle both going in the 4th. I feel like that's really risky. Give me the 2 Browns and who went right after him in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Marquise Brown, and then Allen Robinson too. Allen Robinson's one who I'm all over.
100%.
I mean, team 6. Jalen Waddle's dude. That's just you're paying $350.
That's what I'm saying. Like you see, that's what like. There's plenty of time to get in these drafts, like 350, 125, 2,000. Price points are all different. There's a lot of guys in here that might not be well averse to like how the FFPC drafts go, and like they're just guys who are just see a fantasy football league and win $1 million or $500,000 and just jump in. Structure of the team are totally different than what they're supposed to be. So you can find a lot of leagues like this where it seems like it's a little light, I guess, with the talent involved. This guy might go out and win the league, but Jalen Waddle as your starting receiver. I love Jalen Waddle, but there's a lot of questions with him right now. Going with Kittle and going with Chubb, even Eckler. Not for me. I mean, 6 and 10 are fighting each other for the.
I mean, Eckler. We can go back and talk about him. Pretty. He goes running back 3 nearly every time. Personally, as I said, I would go Kamara over him. Just Eckler, the workload. I think the Chargers very cognizant. They probably can't run him as much as they did last year.
I said he would be the number 1 overall player last year. I put it on Twitter. It's in writing. He was number 2, which I know I suck, but I don't see there being, like you said it perfectly. I don't see him getting the same workload. He was literally out there they had nobody behind him. They're going to figure out a way to force somebody to be behind him this year. I just don't see him getting the workload again. And I just feel like there's guys with Barkley, Swift, Kamara that have way higher of upside than Eckler this year. Not last year, this year.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about Pitts' positive touchdown regression. Eckler sniffs of a candidate for negative touchdown regression. I believe he had
100%.
18 total, something along those lines. Fourth round is finished off by Brandin Cooks. You've been on your best ball streams, a big Davis Mills guy. Brandon, I don't know about you. I love Brandin Cooks. He's a wide receiver one on a team that's going to be down a lot. He was great last year and has a quarterback who, believe it or not, seems competent. Like Davis Mills seems like a legitimate NFL quarterback. He's not winning a team a Super Bowl. For right now, I think the Texans have something going, and Brandin Cooks, I think, should be going a little earlier than he has been.
I think he should be going earlier too, but for whatever reason in drafts, I seem to miss him. I missed him in a lot of FFPC drafts. Maybe it's because I just like the guy better. It's a different structure that I was looking at. But Davis Mills is a guy I'm definitely high on. He's my number one overall FFPC quarterback, which might sound crazy to some people, but if I'm taking a stud quarterback early, he's my number two, or he's my like number three, like if I go 3 quarterback build. I just feel like he's safe because there's nobody behind him. He's on a bad team, like you said. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And with Cooks and Collins and Brevin Jordan and obviously Tyler Johnson, they just picked up from Tampa Bay, there's going to be a lot of targets to go around. Damian Pierce is, whether you like him or not, he's not a 6th-round pick for me. He should be, maybe a little 7th, 8th round. I could probably justify taking him. But the Texans are going to be behind a lot. So they're going to be throwing the ball a ton.
Yeah, I mean, Brandin Cooks, I think he is a negative stigma because he dealt with injury concerns for so many years, and he's on the Texans. So I think it's sometimes it is you do it, I do it. I'm sure that it's sometimes hard to break just this idea that you have in your head of a player. Last thing on that 4th round, I want to talk about the Dalton Schultz, Darren Waller back to back. Darren Waller, he's going to lose targets with Davante Adams there. It's just going to happen. But I think he finally has a coach, at least from the sound of it, who recognizes his value as a red zone threat. And I think the touchdowns very well could go up. Last year, I had a ton of Darren Waller shares, and it really stunk tuning into. One of the reasons Renfrow dominated is when Waller was healthy last year, which he wasn't for a lot, but he was just getting double covered. All the attention was on him with Davante Adams there. Is Waller, maybe not undervalued. I think he's going about right, but I want your thoughts on him because I kind of could see a big year for him, especially boosted by touchdowns.
1,000%. I drafted him in my main event today in the 4th round. Was very happy about it. To me, the tier drops a little bit after him. Hawkinson, Goddard, Ertz, I guess you can say. Schultz, I'm not really that high on. But Waller, like you said, I mean, last year there was no Davante Adams. Davante Adams is going to get all that attention. Renfrow is going to get a lot of attention in the slot because Renfrow's a baller. No matter what anybody says, he's a baller. He might be small, he might be white and all that stuff, but he's a baller. Waller is going to get a lot of positive touchdown regression, progression this year is the word, not regression. So he's going to be a lot better in my opinion. And in this format that awards tight ends, I just think Waller is a great pick in the 4th round, and I could see him going a little bit higher as we get closer.
Yeah, I think he's just one of those where it's very easy to look at Davante Adams and worry about what it's taken away from Waller, and people are overlooking the fact that it actually, I think, benefits in the long run. Adam Thielen, round 5, wide receiver 29. And I mean, you taught Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's floor is nice. It's just the ceiling.
Yeah, he's a safe player, but I just don't think Keenan. Like I look at what's a guy that he can get into me in the championship rounds that can win me $1 million. Obviously, you got to get there, and I understand all that stuff. But if you're going to ever give me a Mike Williams versus Keenan Allen, I'm going to take Mike Williams 100 times out of 100.
Yeah. Keenan Allen, he hasn't had 8 touchdowns in his career. I mean, it's just he's getting older. There's the whole thing people still say he's injury prone, which isn't true. He hasn't had injuries.
Joshua Palmer is going to emerge a little bit.
Eckler's
still there to catch all the the shorter passes, the dump offs, and things like that. And that's Keenan Allen's range. He's not going down the field. He's not making big plays.
I mean, I think as fantasy owners, we love teams that stink because in some ways you get all the garbage time points. Chargers were in a ton of shootouts last year.
They will be this year, that division.
I mean, they will be, but there's also the defense is so improved. I think there's also some games where they're not trailing like they were last year in those close score games. So Keenan Allen, I think, as you said, Mike Williams for upside there. That team, I didn't even mind the start really. Like Keenan Allen is okay, but then the Adam Thielen picks,
Team 11 is ruining a great start. Jesus.
Eh,
No receivers through fifth
none.
round, 5 rounds is not a winning proposition.
You're off Damian Pierce. I've seen you kind of say that as the
I wouldn't
price
say
is
I'm off him. I like his opportunity. There's nobody behind him. He had Rex Burkhead's gonna be a pain in the butt. There's nobody else really. But 5th round, it's just so hard to. I always say this: if you don't love a guy, it's really hard when you know that main event's been going on for a couple weeks or months now. That you know guys that have 11th round Damian Pierce shares, 10th round, 8th round, whatever they are, to take him in the 5th round over a guy like Rashad Bateman or a guy like Darnell Mooney or a guy like even Lamar Jackson, Dallas Goedert, go down the list. I mean, it's just not, especially on that team. It makes no sense. None. You have 3 running backs.
Their receivers.
You have no receivers through 6 rounds. None.
They might have the worst receivers we've seen doing one of these shows. It's going to be that bad. Recapping that 5th round before we move on, David Montgomery leads it off. Real pause right there. More fantasy points this season, David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert?
I hope Khalil Herbert.
I know you hope.
David Montgomery. So
what do you think?
Dead zone is not for me. I've always talked about the dead zone and how I avoid it. I have a couple guys like AJ Dillon, Breece Hall. I own them. Damian Pierce, cheaper earlier. Elijah Mitchell, no. I mean,
talk about guys guaranteed to get hurt. Only Elijah Mitchell is guaranteed.
And also at San Francisco, man, it's nothing. You don't know. It could be Jordan Mason. It could be
your guy, TDP.
TDP, my guy. It could
Jeff Wilson until he gets hurt.
No,
yeah.
It could be a guy off the streets right now that you don't even know his name.
Yeah, I
don't trust Kyle Shanahan.
Never trust a Shanahan backfield at all. But no. I asked you that because there's some of the beat reporters and they're like, give your bold prediction for the year. And I saw a couple of Bears are like, Khalil Herbert will be the starting running back by the end of the year.
I hope so.
He's a talent, but
there's a lot of positive press.
I think it discounts David Montgomery a little, but
it definitely does.
That's just
David
me.
Montgomery is I trashed him last year in the preseason. He was very good for a while.
Yeah,
he started puttering at the end of the season, but
yeah. He's not sexy. That's the thing. He's not a sexy pick, but again, as you say, is David Montgomery a running back who's going to win you this $500,000 grand prize? No, he's just simply not. Juju Smith-Schuster, wide receiver 25, over guys like Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy, DK, Darnell Mooney. What are your thoughts on Juju? I mean, you mentioned earlier waiting for Sky Moore.
He's definitely a guy that, like, again, a friend of mine texted me today and was like, "Is there a couple guys that you're down on that you're worried about, like, biting you when it comes to it?" Juju is definitely one of them, because if Patrick Mahomes and they figure it out early, I mean, there's a lot of people that are out there making bold predictions. He's a 100-catch guy this year. I don't see it, but a lot of guys who are very, very well-known and solid fantasy players that are high on Juju. I'm not one of them. I just didn't see it the last couple of years. I know the Big Ben disaster, but his upside will get him over, the guys that are drafted over him, in my opinion.
I think Juju, there's obviously the whole thing is, was he just a product of being opposite Antonio Brown? But then the flip side of that is, yes, but when Antonio Brown left, Big Ben also fell off a cliff. So
like a total cliff.
Like, this is kind of a prove-it year for him. I like the risk. Terry McLaurin follows him up.
Definitely worth the risk.
Oh, for sure. Again, this is it goes back. First, I really like Team 2, what they're doing. I mean, they're straight pissing yellow, but
they're also pissing yellow, and everything is working out for them with the running backs.
Yeah, fantastic.
Nobody's taking any of the good running backs that are still there.
They're also
the dead zone cliff off, like I like to call them, the Chase Edmonds, the Stevensons, the Kareem Hunts. Those guys are literally falling in their lap. Also, some stud quarterbacks that could be coming down right now.
I look at them, but they're also pissing out with the right guys. Well, I love Justin Jefferson's my wide receiver 1. I really all aboard on AJ Brown personally.
Of course, T Higgins. You see the spike weeks.
Yeah,
he has plenty of weeks. I mean, 100+ target guarantee. Marquise Brown, like you said, Kyler Murray is going to be just peppering him with the ball early.
Dude, they're going to chuck the ball around in Arizona.
They're familiar with each other.
Yeah.
Juju has Mahomes. Obviously, you can't go wrong there. And if they could figure out a connection early on, I mean, this team finds some running backs, gets a stud quarterback, mixes in tight ends later. It's definitely one of the best teams that I've seen so far as of right this second.
I mean, looking at who was available, I'm fine passing on Javonte with kind of the iffy reports. Maybe Fournette instead of Higgins, but I'm fine with that. Like, there's no need to reach, and they haven't messed around with reaching out a running back. They haven't felt like the need. You can find running backs on waivers. Guys always come out of nowhere.
And all these guys that are like in this dead zone that we talk about, David Montgomery, questions. Cam Akers, questions. Breece Hall, questions.
Yeah.
I think A.J. Dillon's a little safe. I think he's pretty much guaranteed. J.K. Dobbins, questions.
Big
Elijah
questions.
Mitchell, questions. Dameon Pierce, questions. I mean, there's nothing that any of these guys are going to, like, when you hit the draft button, that they're really going to be excited about.
Tom Brady. It's sometimes funny because I'm focusing on like listening to you, trying to figure, and then you just look down and you're like, Tom Brady went that early. I mean,
6th round. Like, people get caught up in runs. Like, you see it in every draft. Like, 2 quarterbacks going, and they're like, oh my God, I got to take a quarterback. Instead of just taking a breath, looking at all the quarterbacks that are left. Love Tom Brady, but you have Tom Brady and 2 receivers who are not the most sexiest. Jeez. I mean, there are some teams in this league that are literally, if they don't win, I'd be extremely shocked.
Yeah.
Team 2, Team 5, like J.K. Dobbins is a perfect pick for that build. 4 stud receivers. A.J. Dillon, who's pretty much safe. I think his floor is good, but he also has the upside if something happens to Aaron Jones. J.K. Dobbins, you can figure out a running back for a week or 2 until he comes back and he's 100% or close to it. I mean, you're looking at a great start with 6 picks.
I mean, if you're looking at my current scouting report on my debut compared to Balky, I'm doing a terrible job keeping people updated here on these picks. So let me run through these last 2 rounds. 5th round, we already said David Montgomery, Juju, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy, A.J. Dillon, DK Metcalf. Then a little bit of Justin Herbert in the middle of the round there. Kickstarts a little bit of a QB run later on. Thielen, we talked about, Breece Hall, Darnell Mooney, Dameon Pierce, Rashad Bateman. And then start of the 6th round, Lamar Jackson, Dallas Goedert, Elijah Mitchell, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, TJ Hawkinson, Cam Akers, Dobbins, Edmonds, Michael Thomas, Tony Pollard to team 2. They finally get their running back, and then Kyler Murray to the team 1. So that is where we're at as we start the 7th. Real quick, I want to go back, though, to that 5th round. Personally, and I want to hear your opinion, you're positive. I don't consider A.J. Dillon a dead zone running back because I think his floor is going to be 200-plus carries.
100%.
I think Rodgers, he has better hands than he's displayed. I think that's going to be a real split with Aaron Jones. And I think he gets the goal line work. You mentioned you're on Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon at his price, I like more than Aaron Jones at his price.
So do I. I mean, okay. I've been taking A.J. Dillon a ton recently. Early on, I wasn't on him as high. But when you start making these wide receiver, tight end early builds, A.J. Dillon's a great guy to be your anchor at your running back because he has that top 5 overall upside. If something happens to Aaron Jones, he will be the guy. He will get all the targets, rushes, goal, everything. So I mean, when you set that up, he's definitely not in the dead zone for me either. I agree.
Well, I mean, what was your take? It was Zeke's not in Dallas. It's just Tony Pollard. He's going
Pollard be a top 5 overall. I think both of them. A.J. Dillon will be a little after Pollard because with Pollard, at least the receiving upside is more safer. But Dillon's a 1st-round pick without Aaron Jones. Yeah. Realistically, look at A.J. Dillon versus Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Is there really that much difference?
I think A.J. Dillon honestly provides more receiving, if I'm being entirely honest.
I mean, the Packers' offense is better? I'm just saying without Aaron Jones, obviously.
Yeah.
But before people go nuts and say, yeah, that's a crazy comparison. I'm not comparing the players, but they're very similar and built. I mean, I think he's a top 12 pick overall, A.J. Dillon without Aaron Jones.
I mean, we've kind of talked. I feel like you can say this about so many running backs. It's just the nature of the position. But Aaron Jones hasn't been healthy. Like, there's some guys who have proven they can stay healthy. Aaron Jones really hasn't. He's going to get banged up. So I think A.J. Dillon is a fantastic pick. Kind of looking at that 6th round, I don't really even want to talk about the Tom Brady pick in the middle 6. That's just
I don't understand that at all.
Cam Akers, is that going to be a split? McVay likes running 1, but I'm not too as worried as some people about Akers' burst and how he looked at the end of the season. I think it was kind of ridiculous that he came back. Clearly, medically,
absolutely
was fine.
Ridiculous.
I'm not going to sit here on YouTube, me with my sports marketing degree, and try and say like I know what's best for Cam Akers. He and the doctors do, but just looking eye test wise, doesn't seem like it was the wisest move. Like, it just didn't help him. Like, what was the point? It didn't help couldn't have helped his confidence.
It definitely didn't help his confidence, and you haven't heard anything positive about him in the offseason. that's making anybody think like, oh, that might have just been, he came back too early type of thing.
Yeah.
Nothing positive. He was out already with an injury. He's back practicing now, but I always say, like, when it comes to these like two running backs that are kind of similar, Akers and Darrell Henderson, give me the guy with a discount. Give me the Hendersons. Cam Akers was a guy that I was on a little bit early, but totally off him now. I just have no interest. The injury, the burst we talked about. I know McVay likes to use one guy, but I just feel like Henderson is just a little bit of a safer bet at a way cheaper price.
I think it's also the Akers, his draft stock was higher earlier because I think people were anticipating that Cam Akers looks great. Like in preseason, you see like a sick play and you just didn't get any of that. The dead zone running back run is firing off right now in the 6th and 7th round. 7th round, your guy, arguably your favorite receiver on the planet, Allen Lazard, starts off the 7th. Jalen Hurts, league winner. He's going to be QB1 without a doubt. Although I always say that, and then I pump the brakes a bit because your Eagles aren't going to be trailing at times like they did last year. So I feel like
the defense is better. It definitely has me worried a little bit. The offense, obviously, with AJ Brown is a much better target, with him.
They're going to win the division.
Smith.
I don't think it's a question.
They're a safe bet to win the division. I think
repeats.
their biggest challenge in the division is Giants, personally. I know that's probably a little bit of a take.
I had the Giants winning the division last year, so
I just think Daniel Jones takes the next step. I mean, a lot of people I know are singing the gloom and doom of him, and he's done, but
he stinks.
He does stink, but I feel like in that offense, he can only get better than he was. And if he's a decent fantasy quarterback, that means the team's going to be okay with Barkley taking the next step. If Tony stays healthy, I just think Dallas is a disaster waiting to happen.
I just believe in the trend. I believe in like the trend. I buy in as Super said, like no NFC East team repeats. So Dallas just simply isn't.
And like realistically, I'm not the biggest Jalen Hurts. Like I'm not going to pound the table for him. I'm all in this year. I told all my friends, everybody that last year I've been a hater. I was a hater throughout pretty much this whole year last year. I'm buying in. The whole dream team thing has me worried from a couple of years ago because everybody's talking about the Eagles. They're going to, people are betting on them to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. They're betting on them to win the NFC. They're the most talented team. They just got Gardner, the safety. That was a great addition for nothing to fill a huge void on the team. But at the end of the day, it comes down to one player, and that's Jalen Hurts. Can he make the throws?
Does it frustrate you as an Eagles fan as much as we talked about the other day? Eagles fans were ridiculous with Howie Roseman, but does it bother you that Howie Roseman gets so much praise for just making terrible receiver picks and then trading them away a couple years later for a 6th rounder? Does that bother you at all?
It offsets like getting AJ Brown. Yeah. Stuff like that. He always finds a way to get out of it. I'm more of a Howie guy than not a Howie guy. I mean, I'm not going to go crazy either way. I know a lot of people who are on both sides who hate him just because they can't get the JJ Arcega-Whiteside and, not taking DK Metcalf and then Jalen Reagor and Justin Jefferson. But at the end of the day, like, I saw something on Twitter the other day. You take the blue pill, DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson, or you take the red pill, AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, all things considered.
Yeah.
I think I'm taking the AJ Brown, Devonta Smith side, and I'm okay. And I love Justin Jefferson, but a lot of things have to fall into place. Like if Justin Jefferson's here, it was with the whole Carson Wentz debacle. So you don't know if anything would have came about.
No, I think the Eagles, but I want you. So you agree Eagles are going to be better, but again, as I said, Hurts was QB1 until he got banged up down the stretch. Like he was leading, but
the rushing upside's there. And it's not going to change.
But does the Eagles being better concern you at all? Because Jalen Hurts got a ton of like the classic example. It's only one game, the Bucs game last year, where you guys just were out of it in like the early second quarter, and then he just went on a tear on his own. Does that get eliminated because they are better, or are you just still thinking that because the Eagles are better, he might be I guess the point that I'm trying to make long-winded, does them going maybe leading in more games hurt him, or does AJ Brown's addition help him as
I think the AJ Brown thing helps him because like it gives him more of the throwing that he didn't have last year. I mean, some of the games he put up throwing were abysmal, but the rushing upside just saved, guys. I mean, there are games when I think he had 100 yards passing, 150 yards passing. Like, it was not pretty. I don't think that's going to happen this year with the receivers, obviously, with A.J. Brown, and then obviously Zach Pascal they added will definitely help as a fourth guy, third guy, whatever you want to call it, the emergence of hopefully Dallas Goedert this year. I just think that Jalen Hurts is my QB3. I'm very high on him. I just drafted him in my actually the one that's going on now, main event slow with Goddard. So I'm all aboard the train. I hopefully don't crash, but Jalen Hurts is still with the rushing upside, which we love in fantasy football.
Yeah.
He's right behind Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson for me.
And then they got that team 2 got the stack of Hurts and AJ Brown. And by the way, I'm all in on AJ Brown because I've seen some things. You see things on Twitter. Oh, but Jalen Hurts is concerned. Dude, Ryan Tannehill was throwing the ball. I know
narrative, man. The
Ryan
narrative.
Tannehill.
Don't sleep on the narrative.
Dude, AJ Brown's yak. Like
they're best friends. The narrative thing. Look at Cooper Kupp last year with Matthew Stafford. That's the one thing. Like I've been a little bit more on Devonta Smith than I have AJ Brown early on, but that's changed dramatically because they're best friends.
Yeah,
I just see a lot of targets coming his way. Obviously, AJ Brown has injury history, so that is a little bit of a worry. But the upside is massive if Jalen Hurts can figure it out.
Yeah, and he has those injuries, but he's also shown an ability to play through those injuries. I mean, you look
he's not soft.
He had a top 10 year as a receiver, and then the offseason he gets knee surgery. He had knee surgery on both knees, and he was just a dog no matter what. Also, I mean, this is hard-hitting analysis, but his pregame fits, tell me that guy's not going for 150 and 2 each week.
I know. He got some swag to him.
He absolutely does. Rest of the 7th round, Christian Kirk, Drake London, Antonio Gibson, Kareem Hunt, Ramondre Stevenson, Cordero Patterson, Elijah Moore. I mean, Elijah Moore might be like my guy. Like everyone has Elijah Moore might be my guy. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Hunter Renfrow, and DeAndre Hopkins. We talked about kind of those dead zone running backs. You mentioned Ramondre you like. We'll get into him. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is one of mine because you had a tweet the other day about, it was in response to someone. But the Pacheco love was wild at one point a couple of weeks ago. It's really tailored down. Pacheco's the number 2 guy there, that's good for Clyde.
That's great.
It never doesn't shock me,
but I still
Clyde Edwards-Helaire isn't a good NFL player.
He's a terrible NFL player.
It makes no sense to me. I think
like
that
when he got drafted, I'm like, he seems like the perfect fit, like for this team. Like he does everything they need, catch the ball, do all that stuff. He has been that first game, he was good, and everybody was like, I remember there were guys that were tweeting out he's the number
Texans
1
game.
player.
I drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire first round that year in my drafts. I was all in. I mean, Andy Reid's drafting a running back first round. This dude is sick at LSU. That first, and I'm just sitting there like, yup.
Since then, he's just been a colossal disappointment. And
he doesn't get red zone carries. He doesn't get red zone carries. He gets hurt. He doesn't read holes well at all. He's just not a good. He's undersized.
He's a terrible actual running back.
Like he's just not good. But the flashes of potential and the opportunity in that offense is just too much for me to pass up in that dead zone. Like as Kareem Hunt doesn't get traded, I can't fathom passing Clyde if you're taking a running back in this dead zone over a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Darrell Williams is gone, right? That was a guy who vultured. I know McKinnon's there on some passing, but Clyde should have the opportunity, like one last chance. And do you take the risk on that one last chance?
He has the draft capital. That's all he has anymore. If he didn't have the first round draft capital, I think he wouldn't be on the team. I still can't draft him. Everything you said, spot on. And there's nothing that I can disagree with anything you said. But it would have to be like the build of team 2 for me to take a shot on the upside, the ceiling that we talk about with CEH. Besides that, like this guy, team 10, who we talked about 100 times, I don't know what they're doing. We talked about Clyde being his 4th running back. Like, no.
I know you and me both love Darnell Mooney. Deontay, slight reach, okay. Bobby Trees, God, Bobby Trees is going to love. I'm still buying Treylon Burks. And maybe this is a good time to talk about it, even though the rookies haven't talked about it. Does Jamar Chase last year could tint our view negatively, and we just come to anticipate, like these preseason storylines, they're not going to work out? I think that gets overblown. I think you have to buy in sometimes, but it feels like one of the Treylon Burks, Sky Moore, one of those guys who's kind of getting not negative press, but not a ton.
No positive press.
Yeah, one of those guys is going to be as good as we expected them to be when they were drafted. Even like, I doubt it, but like hell, even Christian Watson, like one of them has to work out. Like there's going to be a Jamar Chase-esque player. I think it just has to be. And I don't know if it's Moore or Burks, but give me Burks over Woods. I think the upside is just like, again, Bobby Trees is similar when we talked about Thielen earlier, and even Keenan Allen. Like the floor is nice, but you got to go for ceiling at some point, and their ceiling is really low right there.
I just feel like Burks is, like you said, his ceiling is so high. They traded pretty much him for AJ Brown. Let's just call it what it is. It's pretty much what the trade was.
It was.
So Mike Vrabel, I know, is an old school coach. He's going to teach the rookie a lesson and do all that stuff. But who is ahead of him on the depth chart? They have Robert Woods, very good NFL receiver, not discount him anyway. But he's more of a slot guy, like older guy. Who else?
Coming off an ACL injury.
Coming off an ACL. Who else?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they're going to give the ball to Derrick Henry 600 times. I get all that stuff. But Kyle Phillips, I mean, who Austin Hooper? Like, Treylon Burks is playing from day one, and he's going to be out there. If a coach wants to send him a weak message, that's fine. And that was all preseason. It was him being out there with the third team, the fourth team, the fifth team, and all that stuff. Treylon Burks is the guy to own, and will be on as many teams as I can draft him on, because, like you said, the upside is Jamar Chase. And if you can get Jamar Chase in the 10th round, 9th round in some of these drafts, that's insane value.
And I don't want to knock Woods too much. I don't want to also act like I'm kind of cutting the middle here, because I do think he presents some value. I just feel as though there's just better options, like Brandon Ayuk. Like, I'm a big Brandon Ayuk guy. Like, why are you going just so, like, you got to draft for upside at some point too, and just don't play it safe. Kind of recapping the 7th and 8th round, both. I believe I did finish it. I did finish. This is my weakness right here. These recapping these rounds. 8th round, Kadarius Toney, talk about upside, leads it off. Josh Jacobs, Gross, Robert Woods, Devontae Smith, Zach Ertz, Chris Olave, Joe Burrow, Brandon Ayuk, Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary, Dawson Knox, and Pat Freiermuth. Rashad Penny, another dead zone guy. Fantasy owners have been burned too many times with injuries, but Kenneth Walker, even if he's back by week 1, he's going to have to get reacclimated. Rashad Penny had one of the greatest fantasy stretches of all time, which is great to say.
He was a monster last year.
8th round, this team build, I don't love the Chris Godwin pick, but I've liked, because I've kind of expressed the Brady O-line concerns me a bit. There's a lot of mouse defeat, and he's coming off an ACL. Besides that, I kind of like the build that they're doing here, and the Edmonds and Penny are two high upside running back plays.
Penny's definitely a guy that I have a good amount of in best ball. He's not the sexiest pick in the world, but you saw the production last year when he was given the chance at the end of the season. He's a massive injury risk. Yeah, we all know that. That's his big thing. And the offense being a terrible quarterback, average offensive line, a team that realistically wants to lose every game and get a quarterback next year. So that worries you a little bit. He's not really going to be in there on passing downs. So that's another worry. But I feel like you could do a lot worse right now. He's definitely a guy that's going to have a role right from the beginning as the bell cow. Kenneth Walker, I don't think is going to be ready for a while. And even if he is, like you said, he has to be acclimated back into the offense. And I don't really think he's that good of a prospect as it is. And he doesn't get the ball either. So
interesting. Do you think there is if you're this team 4, is there ever a consideration in a draft like this when it's not best ball, where maybe you reach a bit in the next couple of rounds on Kenneth Walker, so you're pretty much guaranteed to have the Seahawks starting running back and just hope that it doesn't turn into the committee? Or are you just going to draft one and just be done with it and just root for them?
Draft one and be done with it. I'm never going to be in that mentality when it comes to drafting two, because realistically you draft them both, and with this offense you can get neither that could do anything. So you're pretty much thinking you're covering the market when realistically you have two terrible draft picks or 2 5-6 point guys, maybe an occasionally upside guy, but you might start the wrong one. So that's not something I'd recommend. I feel like it's like with a backfield like this, you pick one and you just keep firing if you really like it that much.
Last kind of dead zone running back I want to touch on, because I'll make a point in a second. Kind of besides Penny, after Josh Jacobs, I think you're past the dead zone and now you're in just the terrible zone. But Ramondre Stevenson,
I don't think so. I don't think
really
you're in a terrible zone. No.
I'm talking about.
I think there are a lot better players that are in that zone than there are a zone above them.
Well, I'm talking about these names: the Jacobs, Singletary, Sanders, Melvin, Damian Harris. That's that zone, like the name values who I don't think you should be drafting. But I wanted to talk about Ramondre Stevenson. I think Stevenson's going mid-7th. I know you don't trust the Patriots running back. I get that. I think he should be going higher.
I think he should be going higher too. I'm very
Montgomery's
high
not
on
there.
him. Yeah, he's that. The only thing that worries me about Stevenson is one person, Bill Belichick. That's it. The offensive. I've heard terrible reports in camp. That worries me. But there's no James White anymore. There's no pass catching back.
Yeah.
He's going to be the guy. Damian Harris is not the guy. And you would think his touchdown, would regress a little bit because that's pretty much why he stayed fantasy relevant last year. I mean, all those touchdowns that he had was what made him into a fantasy star last year. I don't think that's going to happen this year.
I mean, there's some stats out there with Damian Harris's. Like, there's an absurd percentage of his points last year came from just touchdowns, exactly. And that one's huge run against the Bills.
My slow main event I have right now, I have Christian McCaffrey #1, nice. And Stevenson's my second running back, not second round.
Yeah, I'm in on Ramondre just because, and
the upside's there.
And Bill doesn't praise guys like he's been praising Ramondre in a weird way that scares me. That's like one whole scary deception. Like
I said, #1 worry is Bill Belichick.
Yeah, but the White retired. Pierre Strong doesn't look good. They dropped JJ Taylor, I think it is. Yeah. Like he's good.
They added nobody. It's
someone's
going to Harrison Stevenson.
But the issue is Stevenson could as you mentioned, Stevenson could very well have that role that we want him to have. And the Patriots offense might just be like bottom 3 bad. Like
Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, no offensive coordinator. Like you're talking about 2 retreads and terrible coaches when they were there. It's a worry. It's a very big worry because the good thing about the Patriots is there's not a lot of guys in their offense that you're really targeting. So outside of Stevenson, maybe Hunter Henry, those receivers, I don't think you're really targeting in fantasy drafts.
No, I mean, and I've always been a big Bill Belichick fan because my aforementioned, I hate Tom Brady. No, because I hate Tom Brady. So I'm always been like,
it's always Bill. Brady over Belichick.
But I'm like, when he did this, you're making a defensive coordinator and a special teams coach, your co-OCs, like Bill, come on.
With a quarterback who has a ton of potential in Mac Jones.
Dude, figure it out.
Ton of potential. A guy that he's ready to be that guy. And you saw it last year. I mean, he had a lot of positive moments.
Yeah, I don't know if I can buy in fully to Mac Jones. It just kind of raises the question, like, can you win a Super Bowl? And I think you need, and again, a lot of quarterbacks need like the perfect situation, but for Mac, you need a perfect situation. And I don't think he can carry a team to.
He doesn't have the arm talent or any of that kind of ability, that the big game type of ability, like to get outside the pocket type of stuff. The arm strength he's a knockoff, very big knockoff of Tom Brady.
Yeah, I mean it's nuts. Also, the Patriots' inability to just get receivers. Like every single one just melts down.
Doesn't make any sense. And like they're not. You would think rookie guy taking the next step in year 2, go out and get him one of the big names, even if it's a Christian Kirk type of name, which is not obviously a top flight receiver. At least go out and make a splash on a guy that could be the guy. I mean, Mac Jones made the playoffs last year.
I just you look at the names that they've drafted and traded for, and like Mohamed Sanu, Tyquan Thornton this year. Just every single one is just like, it almost seems like they're overthinking.
Devontae Parker, I mean, got off the
Devontae Parker and N'Keal Harry. Although I like the N'Keal Harry pick, I don't blame that. I thought N'Keal Harry was really good coming out of Arizona State.
Arizona State is a monster.
Dude was sick, but I mean that he just
never made it. Just couldn't figure it out.
Just again, we talked about N'Keal Harry, just not a good football player. Like
he's a terrible football player. Just everything you saw in college, I don't know where it went, but it wasn't there in the pros.
And that, real quick, I haven't even recapped round 9, but round 10 are 2 guys we talked about, Burks and Moore. Like Traylon Burks, Kentucky. I'm a Kentucky football fan, diehard. I watch the SEC every week. Traylon Burks dominated the SEC. That has to count for something. You're telling me this guy that I love the whole asthma and the Titans are in love. Where that the dude dominated the SEC. Just get him the ball. Sometimes it's really just that simple.
On a team with nobody. Like I don't know. Like people can trash him and say like, oh, he's not, the asthma, he's a rookie, he doesn't really buy in yet and all that stuff. Okay, that's great. But have a coach sit down with him and figure it out. He's too talented to be a 10th round pick, team 12. Very good draft so far. I have nothing negative to say about that.
I mean, looking at them, Saquon, Pitts, ETN, Mike Williams, Bateman, stacked with Lamar, Tony, now Burks. This team is drafting.
Nothing wrong with DeAndre Hopkins either.
No,
I mean,
where is the right place to take Hopkins with a 6-game suspension? Is it this kind of the 6th, 7th round? Where are you taking him or comfortable taking him, knowing he's?
It depends on what build is. I feel like you can get away with it in this build. because you have Williams, you have Bateman, you have Tony, who should be good from day one. I mean, you probably got to fill out somebody else in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little bit risky. I would more prefer to take him as like my fifth receiver with like a 4 wide receiver start, mix in like an AJ Dillon in the 5th round, and then maybe, a quarterback, and then take Hopkins as my 5th guy, because he could be a league winner at the end if he comes back to DeAndre Hopkins of 2 years ago, not last year. He wasn't great at all.
Mm-hmm. Round 9, George Pickens, Miles Sanders, and then a little QB run, Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, and Dak Prescott. Rondale Moore goes round 9, despite concerning preseason reports, and he might not even be ready week 1. Melvin Gordon, Damian Harris, your guy Cole Kmet, Nyheim Hines goes a little bit early, but with the reports coming out today that they're really going to try and use him some more. Amari Cooper round 9, a little bit later than I feel like we've been seeing him going. And then James Cook. Any picks you love in round 9 other than?
I'll talk about Hines, because he's been. I haven't seen as many puff pieces as he's got in the last week or so. He was quiet early on. You barely heard anything about him. There's plenty of other handcuffs that were getting blown up. The last week, I feel like it's kind of a little worrisome, because they keep talking him up so much. Is it real, or is Jonathan Taylor going to be the same guy he was last year? I keep hearing Hines is going to be a receiving guy. He's going to play just as much as, if not more than he did last year. Is he, though? Jonathan Taylor is still your guy.
Yeah,
is this just like a smoke and mirrors type of thing? Mm-hmm. It has me a little bit worried. I don't know if I'm that high on him to kick him in the 9th round over some of these other guys. I like a little bit more handcuff, like Darrell Henderson, Rachaad White, even James Cook is a little bit more of a better pick to me. Hines just, I don't know. Something has me worried about all this positivity that's been coming out. Some positivity pieces usually don't work out.
It just feels like one of those preseason storylines that amounts to nothing. Like, there's just no basis why they would do that. So,
is he going to play receiver? Is he playing in the slot? Is he going to be on the same field as Jonathan Taylor? I don't see any of that being true. He's a backup running back with obviously very high upside if something happens to Taylor, which if it does, then Hines is a stud. But I mean, that's a big if with Jonathan Taylor right now.
Yeah. Round 10, Treylon Burks, Sky Moore. We kind of already talked about the whole Jamar Chase idea of the negative preseason reports, but one of them. We talked about Burks a lot, but Sky Moore disappeared. I mean, the first couple of weeks of training camp, he was all over everyone's Twitter feeds. His routes were sick. Everyone's all in. And he literally dropped off the face of the earth, got no targets in the last preseason game. He was playing with the backups. But I'm still buying it because the talent's there. It's a big jump from Western Michigan to the Chiefs, I'm sure. I feel like you just take the risk right there. You understand it's not going to help you. Granted, looking at it with this type of build, we're not even going to get into. They get nice on Amari Cooper that late, sure, but it hurts there. But I'm kind of buying in Sky Moore at this discount because I think he could really explode, especially with McCole Hardman and Marcus Valdes-Scantling, 2 bad football players.
Not 2 bad football players. MVS is a little bit better than Hardman. He's more of a deep guy, but that's all he can do. I don't see him that ever changing. I just think Sky Moore is a talented football player. He was very talented coming out of college. Yeah, he's going to hit the rookie wall a little bit, and that's fine. Early on, he's learned the game and he's playing. Same thing with Treylon Burks. Mm-hmm. Give me these 2 players 100 times out of 100 in drafts where they're getting drafted. They were pushed up in the 7th, 8th round for a little bit there. But in the 10th round, you can't do any wrong with these 2. Mm-hmm. They could bust. They both could be, like you said, N'Keal Harris of the world, just a lot of hype and then just fall flat on their face the rookie year.
Yeah.
But if they don't, Treylon Burks is the only guy in Tennessee, and Sky Moore with Patrick Mahomes, they could just figure out something by like week 3, week 4. I mean, you could be talking about a league winner, a 2nd round pick next year. That's how talented both these players are.
Yep. Round 10 continuing. Kirk Cousins, Kenneth Walker, Tyler Lockett, Darrell Henderson, Michael Gallup, Michael Carter, Rachaad White, Matthew Stafford, James Robinson, and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, the aforementioned terrible football player. Michael Gallup doesn't seem like he's going to be ready for that Sunday Night Football game, but it also seems like he might be just 1 or 2 weeks away. Dallas has kind of a lack of pass catchers.
You've heard nothing from Jalen Tolbert in a really long time.
Nothing. Talk about another guy who's
crickets.
Off the face of this. That's why you hate Dalton Schultz. I personally don't get it because I think his target share is going to be massive. Dude was great last year. Again, Dak loves him as a target, and that offensive line question could lead to more checkdowns. But are we liking Michael Gallup is right here in this draft, wide receiver 50? Because he's going to come back.
I do like Michael Gallup. I think he's on a build. This build's a little tough to have Michael Gallup as your fourth receiver.
A bit tough. I love the two guys we're talking about. Sky Moore and Michael Gallup are the two teams we hate the most. But
literally, it's like, I mean, Michael Gallup and Rondell Moore, you're looking at, and Jalen Waddle, if you really want to get really crazy with it, and DK Metcalf with Geno Smith. Bless you. I mean, this team is in some massive trouble. But Michael Gallup's a guy that I've been targeting a lot later. I mean, he's a guy that if I can get him as my sixth receiver, even my fifth receiver in a couple of builds, I'm okay with. Just because, like you said, it's Dalton Schultz, who I don't dislike. We'll go back to him. I don't dislike him. I just don't think he's that good. And being that last year he had CeeDee Lamb on one side, Amari Cooper on the other side, Michael Gallup. He had all these guys literally letting him run down the field. This year he has CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. There's nobody on that side of the field that strikes any fear on the defense, and an offensive line that is very banged up.
Yeah, but I mean, flip side though, Amari Cooper's vacating all those targets.
The targets are there. The target opportunity is there. But my question is, our defense is going to now start paying attention to Dalton Schultz to where can he get open? He's not an athletic freak. He doesn't have a great athletic profile. The question is, for the fourth round, like, what's the difference between him and Dallas Goedert 2 rounds later?
Better quarterback, more targets, opportunity.
Fair.
Right? And a team that I don't think is going to be as good and is going to be in way more shootouts than the Eagles are, when I think the Eagles, recognizing defense, are going to be in a little bit grittier, grinded out type games.
I could definitely see what you're saying coming true. It's one of my stands that I'm against. We talked about it earlier. Dalton Schultz is not a guy that I have very much exposure to. I picked up a little bit mid-August, but FFPC teams, he's also in the 0 category, which, yeah, of course. In the tight end format, he's definitely a worry with the targets that are vacated, but you got to take stands somewhere, and he's definitely one of the stands that I'm taking.
Round 11, we're halfway through. Alexander Madison, Alberto, Irv Smith, Derek Carr, Romeo Doubs, Tyler Boyd, and Zamir White. Alberto, I feel like now that Greg Dulcich is hurt, he's getting a little more buzz, but a guy who, when the Russ trade happened, people were all over him. And now it's kind of faded out. Are you still kind of holding on to your Alberto shares?
Still on the Alberto train, haven't got off it. I mean, the rookie being injured definitely helps things. He's been banged up too. They say he's going to be ready for week 1, but it's just so hard right now you're taking stock in a week and a half almost. Actually, what's today? Sunday? A week before the season starts. Crazy. Wow, it's crazy to even say. So all these drafts that I've done, that I know that there's 1 week until the season starts. It's like fast forward. It's insane. But it's hard a week before they start, like the final week of practicing, to realize like who's going to be out there and who's not. I'm a big fan of Alberto this year. Like I said, I'm all in on the Broncos pass catchers. Judy, Cortland Sutton. If I had to bet my fantasy career on one player, he'd be the guy that I bet it on.
On Sutton?
On Cortland Sutton.
Okay. Your nephews did draft him today, I saw.
I know. I didn't tell them to do it either. Yeah. Travis Etienne's a close second, but they're the 2 guys that I would bet pretty much almost everything on. All my teams on. They're 2 of my highest owned guys. But I'm just buying into the Broncos pass catchers. I just think Russ is going to cook this year. He's definitely my top 5 quarterbacks. I one of my highest owned guys, and he's pretty cheap in drafts right now.
Yeah. Irv Smith goes right after Alberto. I've been on the Irv Smith train for pretty much since he came into the league. Loved him at Alabama.
I'm worried it's going to crash.
Banged up, questionable for week 1. It seems like with that hand injury. I'm just kind of all in on the Vikings offense. Is there enough targets to go around to Irv Smith? I think there's going to be, but I think tight end 14, I understand the injury concern, but I like his value.
There's definitely a lot of targets to go around. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for him. I've been extremely high on Irv Smith since he came from Alabama.
Yeah.
I just think he's an extremely talented guy, but I also said the same thing about O.J. Howard when he came out, and he's been just a colossal dud.
Yeah.
Injuries definitely derailed him a little bit more, but it looks like it's the same thing with Irv Smith. This is a big year for Irv Smith in this offense. I really think he has the potential to take the next step. He should be out there week 1, all positive, catching passes. So I mean, he's pretty much just getting in football shape. which it might take him a week or so, but I'm still on the train. I have a feeling it could crash by the end of the year, but I'm still drafting him pretty heavily. He's one of my highest end tight ends, and I'm with you there. I'm still riding it as long as I can.
I mean, it really is a make or break year for him.
Yeah.
Zamir White, Garrett Wilson, Kenneth Gainwell, Chase Claypool, Devontae Parker, and Isaiah Pacheco round out the 11th. Have you really heard of a top 10 receiver rookie who's kind of getting as little buzz as Garrett Wilson's been getting?
Zero. Absolutely. It's crazy if you go through these drafts of players. We could do it, off camera, on camera, but there's so many guys that are getting drafted, even as high as Brandin Cooks that we talked about, who's really just been nobody's talking about him. Nobody's moving him up. Nobody's moving him down. He's just pretty much stuck in his zone. Garrett Wilson, like you said, is another guy that we've heard about. Treylon Burks. We've heard about Sky Moore. We've heard about all the other rookies, Jahan Dotson, all the other positive press rookie receivers. I haven't heard a thing about Garrett Wilson. Nothing.
Yeah, weird. It's not negative. It's not anything
which
positive.
Is scary because the only negative thing I saw about him is he's playing with the second team. Corey Davis is on the outside, Braxton Berrios in the slot, and then Elijah Moore on the outside.
I think
so that has me a little bit worried, but you don't draft a guy in the first round.
Yeah, top 10.
Invest the capital that they did, to get him, and just have Braxton Berrios and Corey Davis playing over you. So is it a worry? It's a Jets, so of course it's a worry. I don't have a ton of Garrett Wilson. The Jets worry me outside of Elijah Moore and Breece Hall. But in the 11th round, he's worth the upside shot. Why not?
Yeah. I feel as though it's just one of those things. I think some of it is just the Jet situation, right? You have Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson throwing passes. Elijah Moore, as I said, he's probably one of, if not my guy. Like if I'm choosing one this year, he's the wide receiver one.
I'm with you.
But again, they're going to be trailing in games. He was drafted top 10 at Ohio State. Dude was an immense talent.
Sure was. He outplayed Olave in a lot of spots.
It just feels like one of those situations where his draft stock, I wouldn't even say is really dropped like precipitously. It's always kind of been around this like 9th to 11th round, at least in the drafts that I've
hasn't moved up, hasn't moved down. He's pretty much been stuck in this range.
Yeah, and then right before him though, Zamir White's been a guy who's climbing up my ranks. Mainly, I think it's more of I hate Josh Jacobs. And the Raiders seem to hate Josh Jacobs, and they seem to love Zamir White. Victor Four, who's the Raiders beat reporter, who's one. I have a friend who's a diehard Raiders fan. Like, so Victor Four has become like that's his like Bible that he trusts, right? And Victor Four is like they love Zamir White. Don't draft Josh Jacobs. So that's also
he's number one recruit coming out of college. The guy has plenty of talent.
Yeah,
he's just been injured. That's his issue.
We know they're running a committee. My prediction is it's not even really a hot take as it used to be. I think he's their RB1 by the end of the year.
I agree. And I think him and Amir Abdullah are going to be the guys that are going to lead that team.
If I told you 2 years ago Amir Abdullah would still be fantasy relevant, would you have believed me?
If you would have told me 2 years ago that Amir Abdullah was still in the league, I would have said you're crazy. Forget fantasy relevance.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Hand up. Didn't even know Amir Abdullah was on the team until probably about a month or so ago.
I mean,
so
same. It was literally when the reports came out that it's like, oh, Kenyon Drake might be cut for Amir Abdullah. And I was like, Amir Abdullah's still in the league?
Yeah. When they said he was going to be cut, I'm sitting here going like, all right, it's Amir White. Great. Josh Jacobs will still, be okay. But I'm like, then they have Amir Abdullah talking about he's going to be the James White. I was like, all right, I guess I got to start adding some Amir Abdullah in some of these drafts. And he was free and he's still free.
I mean, I feel like Cordero in a way has warped how I think about some of these just guys who stunk for years, where I'm just like, well, maybe with the new situation in year 8, like he'll be good. Like they'll unlock the talent. Now Cordero's
Amir Abdullah was, when he was in Detroit, there were years when he was a 4th round pick, 5th round pick. I think he might actually been higher in some drafts.
Dude, we talk about like the preseason, like the Damian Pierce, still my all-time like Damian Pierce type rise was Amir Abdullah his rookie year. He had he had just an unreal preseason. He was going 3rd, 4th, and he stunk.
Total stiff.
Stunk.
Just absolutely dumb.
Kenneth Gainwell, I don't want to talk about it too much because if you go watch our past streams, you've touched on a lot. But Kenneth Gainwell, Miles Sanders, that ADP is just getting closer and closer together. I wonder.
And it's making Miles Sanders be a little bit of a value right now. Like,
yeah,
I'm still not drafting him, but like 9th round Miles Sanders if you're like, if you want to take a shot on an upside third running back, I mean, if he could figure it out, I probably still am not doing it. But 7th round Miles Sanders, 8th round Miles Sanders, no. But
I don't know if
I see him in the 10th of some drafts. You could do a lot worse than that.
I don't know if you can call some of these picks lottery tickets because you're still known value. I think later on they become lottery tickets, but essentially Miles Sanders, where he's going to value, like you're getting a guy who he's never with Hurts there, who's their red zone back. Essentially, you're not getting a guy who's going to get a ton of red zone touches or touchdown, but he's not getting 0 again as long as he's healthy.
He's going to get plenty of carries. It's just a question of the coaching staff hates him.
Yeah, I don't know why.
With passion.
I also I do abide by a philosophy. If a player tells me don't draft me in fantasy, I don't. And Josh Jacobs and Miles Sanders have both said that. So you know what? We're off them. They have alerted me to the fact that
I don't have a single Josh Jacobs share out of 250 plus teams.
It's a shame that Josh Jacobs. The thing is, Josh Jacobs isn't a bad running back.
He's a talented running back.
He really isn't. I think it's just some situation based injury.
It's all about the fit.
Their O-line has also been terrible.
Terrible.
Depending on where Josh Jacobs goes next season. That's like we're going way ahead. Be really intrigued to see if like he goes to like if the Chiefs sign him. I don't know.
Totally different player. It's crazy some of these fits. Like I look at Antonio Gibson. We've talked about 100 times. I love Antonio Gibson, the talent. Love the player. His opportunity is way better than it was, obviously, with the unfortunate Brian Robinson news.
Yeah.
But if he goes to like a Kansas City or top of my head to the Raiders,
yeah,
you know, a better fit. I mean, you're talking about a 2nd round talent.
Yeah, and Kansas City is easy to say. Really, I just mean like for Jacobs or Gibson. Well, Gibson's more.
Of course, I mean, Kansas City's always the easiest.
Yeah, but give me a good offensive line, a competent O line, and we'll see what works there.
A coach that believes in him.
Yeah,
I mean, somebody goes out and gets him.
I not an NFL coach, nowhere near close, but I look at tape and I wonder why Ron Rivera hates Antonio Gibson so much.
I wonder why Ron Rivera still has an NFL job, but we'll say that for another.
And Jack Del Rio, I mean, Ron Rivera is like a name value coach.
He made the one Super Bowl. I mean,
great guy.
Great guy. Nothing negative to say about him as a person, but
bad coach. But just
average coach.
I don't know how much you follow other sports. Commanders, worst run overall organization in sports.
Daniel Snyder's an absolute idiot. Always been an idiot.
I mean, Bruce Allen when he was there is terrible. Their coaches are just seemingly consistently just incompetent.
They bring in guys at the end of their careers, trying to the Donovan McNabb debacle. I mean, you go down the list of all the disasters. I mean, RG3 saved them for that year.
Yeah,
and then he got hurt, and
partly because guess why? Because their field is the worst field in the league.
Disaster.
I mean,
the Carson Wentz trade I would never want to play for.
The Carson Wentz trade is just like that.
Could have gone for nothing.
The 2nd round pick? Are you kidding me? Just terrible. 12th round here: David Njoku, Julio, Nico Collins, your guy, Jamal Williams, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Gage, J.D. McKissick, Khalil Herbert, Jahan Dotson, Gerald Everett, Raheem Mostert, and Josh Palmer. Love Josh Palmer. I want to talk about David Njoku, though. Harrison Bryant, I'm not buying into at all. I don't think he's going to be relevant. Jacoby Brissett's going to have to throw to someone, and Jacoby Brissett probably is going to play it safe. Jacoby Brissett has never been a guy who's airing it out and taking risks. And Njoku, they signed to the big contract.
Yeah.
He's a major talent. I'm buying in. I'm buying fully in, and I think
I'm buying in. It's a good value with him. Yeah. And if you look at preseason snap counts, which are very important, especially when playing with starters, he was out there all the time, and that's a great sign. And the guy's going to be a big, has big potential in the offense. I mean, obviously, if you can hold on, Njoku's a perfect guy that could win you $1 million, could win you $200,000 if you can hold on to him to when Watson gets back. It's going to be tough because there's going to be weeks when you're like, man, Jacoby Brissett is throwing for 135 yards, and Njoku is just not catching the ball.
Yeah.
But if you can be patient and just store him as your 20th guy, or maybe Jacoby Brissett makes him into a weekly starter guy, he's definitely a guy that you can watch out down the road because they got some nice playoff matchups, and he's a guy that probably will go under-owned when it comes to big money at the end.
For sure. Do you hate Julio Jones as much as you did when he first
Still hate him. Won't take him. It's not that
why? Just because he's going to get hurt, or is there
I just feel football
reason why?
The injury thing is the number one risk.
Yeah.
The opportunity is the second one. They can puff him up all he wants. Gage is still there. Godwin's still there. Evans still there. Fournette's still there.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of targets to go around the Julio. Yeah, there could be a burst here and there. Julio in best ball, I'm more interested in than Julio in a football guys or a main event. When do you start Julio Jones in the main event?
What's the thing though is with Julio, he looks good.
He does, but he always looks good.
We heard the same things that are being said about Julio when Antonio Brown signed.
That's fair.
I buy into Tom Brady with great all-time receivers, and he's gonna make it work. And I hate Russell Gage now. I loved Russell Gage. Now I think Julio has supplanted him.
I still think Russell Gage has plenty of potential in the offense. I'm still on the Russell Gage.
I know you have the whole thing Brady brought him. I just think now, granted, again, Julio's going to get hurt. He's just one of those guys. It sucks because he's an all-time talent.
All-time talent.
He's guaranteed to get hurt. It just seems that way. But I'm just fully buying into him at his draft price in that offense that, especially in a league like this, I think there are enough owners out there. You spend a pick on Julio, he starts off great, and then you trade him. I think there's going to be some guy out there who takes the bait, and then week 7 he's hurt, and you made value on him. So that's where I'm kind of at with Julio.
The good thing with the Gage versus Julio thing early in the season is you're going to know right away. You're going to know. Look at the snap counts. Obviously, Gage's coming back from a little minor injury, so maybe not week 1, but week 2, week 3. Before Godwin gets back to 100%, you're going to see who that number 3 guy is.
Yeah.
Whoever that number 3 guy is, whether it's Julio or Gage, you can be on whatever side you want. That guy's going to have a very, very solid value, solid weekly value. The other guy will probably get phased out.
With Gronk gone, there's really no tight end threat there. I mean, you could argue, though, that in those weeks where Godwin is getting back to speed, more than likely, I would say Fournette's the second receiver on that team. So,
I agree. Fournette's going to get plenty, like you said, plenty of dump downs. It's just like the offensive line, like we talked about earlier, just has me something just worried lately.
Yeah.
I've been passing on Fournette in a lot of spots for receivers, and it could come back and bite me. But I just feel like something about that line and just Fournette in general. I don't know. I'm just worried.
My thing with Fournette, though, because the line is concerning, and I think it hurts his rushing. But my thing is Brady, if he doesn't have time, he just dumps it down. That's where I'm kind of.
Dump offs will always be there.
It's a very simple way of
White's
thinking.
Going to play a lot more than you think.
I'm a big fan of Rachaad White. I picked him up in my draft this weekend.
I think he's going to play a lot more than you think. And with him playing, I mean, he can catch the ball. It's one thing he's very talented of. And if they can figure out a role for him, I could see him taking a lot of snaps away from Fournette if he can pass block.
Here's I was literally just about to say the thing with Rachaad White, and we'll know quickly, is even though he will be going out for passes, if the dude can't pass block with
he won't play.
Brady, he's not. He
doesn't matter. He'll be Keyshawn Vaughn.
Yeah, God, Keyshawn Vaughn. Don't get me started. He stinks.
Yeah. Awful.
13th round: Isaiah McKenzie, DJ Chark, Evan Ingram, Jerick McKinnon, Hunter Henry, Jacoby Myers, KJ Osborne, Jarvis, Mike Gesicki, Trevor Lawrence, Hayden Hurst, and KJ Hamler. Isaiah McKenzie's obviously been receiving some buzz, hasn't really translated to that high of an elevated price. I just kind of go back to as much love as Gabe Davis got in that slot role that McKenzie will be playing. Cole Beasley, even Emmanuel Sanders last year had many fantasy relevant weeks. McKenzie questionable for week 1, dealing with an injury. I'm buying his stock because the Bills have shown they can sustain 3 receivers plus Dawson Knox. They're going to be chucking it around. I like McKenzie.
I could not agree more with you. McKenzie's definitely a guy that I'm very, very high on, especially at this price. I mean, you can get a 13 round wide receiver with Josh Allen, playing out of the slot like you talked about with Cole Beasley and Sanders and you saw McKenzie flash at the end of last year.
Yeah.
He definitely had some games that made you pay attention to him. And the whole talk was about Jamison Crowder, but I haven't heard one thing about it.
Not a
Is
peep.
Jamison Crowder still on the team? I'm pretty sure he's back. He's healthy now.
I like Jamison Crowder too. I
thought he was going to be
during free agency. I made a graphic.
McKenzie.
I made a graphic for the FFPC, like the most underrated free agent. And I'm like Jamison Crowder, and then you just haven't heard anything. And Isaiah McKenzie is what it is.
And he's a talented player. He's quick. He reminds me a lot of Cole Beasley. And if you can give me a Cole Beasley production in that offense, wow. Still with the questions surrounding with Gabe Davis, there's still questions surrounding him. He should be the guy this year, but there's still, plenty of doubters out there that aren't on the Gabe Davis bandwagon. McKenzie could easily be the second behind Stephon Diggs. It's not the craziest thing to say.
And
in the 13th round,
exactly.
Team one these last couple receivers. George Pickens, upside. Josh Palmer, upside. McKenzie, upside. Wan'Dale Robinson, upside. All very, very good. I mean, I don't know how the top. I forget how the top half of the draft looks, but what I'm staring at right here is you can't really do much better.
We can Jonathan Taylor, Javonte, Tyreek Hill, Brandin Cooks, David Montgomery, Kyler.
Just eliminate. You made it go up. I gave this guy all this positive press. And took David Montgomery and Allen Lazard. That's enough positive things to say about it.
Okay.
I saw Allen Lazard go in the 5th round twice of main events in the last couple of days. Somebody, I know I'm a big hater. He's probably my number one guy. I hate on these more than anything. But somebody's going to have to tell me why Allen Lazard is a 5th round pick.
You've talked about on the show, but just to refresh for our new viewers, is your Allen Lazard hate just solely in the fact that you don't think he's good? Because
I don't think he's good.
Okay, because someone's got to catch. Are you staying away from Packers receivers at all costs?
No.
So who are you going
not
for?
Doing that. I'm drafting Romeo Doubs at his discount that he's going right now, and I'm drafting Christian Watson at his discount right now too, because I'll take their unknown upside, and I know it's Aaron Rodgers, and he wants Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb and Allen Lazard out there, but let's just face facts. Randall Cobb is old. Sammy Watkins can't stay healthy. I think Sammy Watkins is talented, but he just can't stay healthy. And Allen Lazard, he did all this, his touchdowns and all that cool stuff with Davante Adams on the other side. Davante Adams ain't there anymore. Allen Lazard's going to be going up against the Jalen Ramseys of the world, the top corners, the Darius Slays. Go down the list of teams with elite number one, and they're going to be game planning to stop Allen Lazard. He's not going to be able to. He's just not good. In the 5th round, I'll take the discounts of Dobbs and Watson and hope they emerge early and take my chances there.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite moments from one of your past best balls was when Bulky convinced you. You were like, Bulky, 30 seconds convinced me about Robert Tonyan. Robert Tonyan is, my point is, tight end 24, as he just went here. He's healthy. Like, he has a connection with Rodgers.
You saw the upside, the touchdowns that he had a couple years ago.
He's not getting a ton of yards, I think. Coming off of an injury is concerning, but they get down to the red zone. More than likely, it's A.J. Dillon or Bob Tonyan.
He's a target, and there's nothing wrong with him in that draft. He was my tight end too, in a deep tight end. Like I waited long on tight end, so I took a couple guys. The upside that's there. I mean, there's a chance he might not be ready for next week. That's okay, but I've seen the big play touchdown ability that he possesses. And if I can get half of that at you said tight end 24? Is that what you said?
Yeah, tight end 24.
Tight end 24, I'll take that 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, chat, Allen Lazard, what a bum. I mean, people share. Obviously, I would consider you, Terp, one of the members of the hashtag High Stakes Bros community. Who the high stakes guys on Twitter? You see the same names. Who is the player that they love who you're entirely off on? Because I feel like you when you go on Twitter, you kind of sometimes see the same names you had, but there's got to be one guy where like I'm just not seeing.
Question. It would probably be either Javonte Williams or Juju. I mean, they're probably the guy that I'd probably say that they're the highest on that I'm not.
Okay.
More like Javonte Williams is probably the guy that if I had to give one pick, it would be him.
Fair. Yeah.
I don't know. Melvin Gordon still being there. And like I said, I'm all in on the pass catchers. I just feel like Russ is going to be throwing the ball a ton. Yeah, they're going to mix in some run, but I just don't see Williams getting the opportunity to pay off a mid-second round draft pick. Obviously, if something happens to Melvin Gordon, we could be talking something different, but second round pick, nah.
I think we're looking into the situations. It's so easy. And again, I'm an NFL coach. Javonte Williams Melvin Gordon's not bad by any means. I think he sometimes gets a bad rap because he's not. Javonte is far more talented, much more explosive. So it's easy to look at that and say he should be starting. But I think it's sometimes you have to look at the situation. So I think, as we mentioned back, he got drafted at the last pick of the 2nd round, and we were both kind of like, all the reports 55-45 splits. I'm a little off on that. But yeah, Javonte, and then people love Juju. But again, I feel like for both of them, as you've mentioned, but you see that the upside there. It's not like a complete just
it's not
they're
like
wrong.
it's not like somebody's like pumping up Derrick Henry and they're like, yeah, there's a bunch of guys out there that are like Derrick Henry #1 overall. Yeah. Like everybody that sits in the category, most of them are off the top guys. Some of the top guys, the Najee's, the Derrick Henrys of the world. There's not many people that are putting the flag in for them.
And this is why you come play in the FFPC, because as much as there's the team 6s, team 10s, where you're just Gordon, but you're getting people who know what they're talking about.
Right.
I think the crazy thing is I was looking because I don't know if you have any. I have. I'm sure you probably do, like the home drafts.
My home draft. I actually just did one 2 hours ago.
My home draft is on ESPN. Just looking at the rankings so I can see what other people.
I literally
AJ Dillon's 103.
AJ Dillon Sutton's like in the 70s.
It's shocking. Like, it's generally shocking, and it's weird to me because I believe, at least I was under the impression, like Mike Clay does their ranking. Mike Clay is knows what he's talking about. So it must be some aggregate, but I'm looking at him like, this just isn't right. Like ETN was in the 60s for most of the summer.
ESPN is literally back in 1980. I put a post out, I think it was 3 years ago, on the FFPC page. I don't think I'll get in trouble for this, but I pretty much said Matthew Berry sucks.
Oh.
And it went viral, and literally there are people coming out of the woodwork saying he's the greatest in the world and all that stuff. And what is that, just kind of being like a pain in the butt, just trying to get some clicks? Maybe. But he has adapted a lot more than he has. He's way better than he used to be. He used to be the standard, like, oh my God, take Tom Brady #1 overall. Like, come on, man. Like, that's not how leagues work anymore. But so many guys, like I was watching the ESPN cast today when I was drafting with my dad. It was on in the background. And I'm just watching. I'm like, who are these guys? What are they talking about? Like, we're talking about PPR leagues and like
Derrick Henry top 3.
You don't have Trey Lance in your top 15 quarterbacks. Like, what are you talking about?
I
understand, like, you don't want to have him be bullish and put him in your top 10, but like they're like, yeah, I really think Justin Jefferson's a good pick this year. Really?
How'd you figure that one out?
How'd you figure that one out? I think he's going to take the next step. Wow, way to go out on a limb there.
Being a player coming from the oh wow,
defense. Anytime you see the blue, you always go wow.
Yeah, come on. The FFPC and just following these drafts, because again, working, I can't play in them, but watching the drafts, and then you go to ESPN, and it generally feels like heaven, because you're like,
it's a different world. Like,
all these guys are falling to me.
I was out at a party with my wife tonight, just like doing a draft, like one of my work leagues, and I'm just sitting here like clicking, and like you kind of lose track, and you look down, and you're like, it's an 8th round. Why is AJ Dillon still doing it?
Yeah.
And you're like, and people just keep passing on. And like, you look at all the guys they're taking, and you're like, thanks, ESPN. Like, thanks for making your rankings so horrific.
Yeah. So my friends from home who are casuals are just like, oh yeah, like this guy stinks, and you're just, and then you look at your team and you're like, I'm good at this.
Like, how do I lose?
Yeah, I'm good at this. And then
every year I get done, I'm like, how do I lose?
Yeah. And then you find
still figure out a way to get to the championship and lose, or get to the playoffs and lose to one of these like teams, and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm up.
Yeah, tell me about it. No, that's what genuinely why you draft in the FFPC. If you want that step up, you come play not only for the $1 million grand prize in the FFPC main event, the $500,000 grand prize in this football guys. Oh my God, they took the kicker
back to back. I mean,
that's a home league move.
That's a home league move, and I understand, like I understand pushing. Like, some people just don't know kickers. Like, I can sit here and go, I don't really pay attention to kickers, so like, if I'm taking a kicker in their last round, I got to actually look him up to see if he's actually a kicker, because it's one thing I don't ever pay attention to.
Oh, yeah.
But people like to say, I'll take Justin Tucker, so I don't got to wait, because I'm like, I don't know. But why?
Yeah, it's just, like, I don't even go by kicker. It's by team. Yeah, who's the Rams kicker this year? Who's
exactly
still Bucker? Still Bucker? Bucker's on the board? Yeah.
Daniel Carlson in the Raiders. I like him. Blankenship, he has a week 14 bye. He's my favorite kicker this year. I don't have to pay attention to kicker at all. I'll just take Blankenship, and then when week 14 comes, I'll cut him and pick somebody else in there for the stretch run.
That is going to be my clip that I post on Twitter.
Thank you.
Dave Terp's kicker
of the year. I
like Jason Sanders, because I just feel like that Miami offense, I could see sputtering in the red zone. Give me Jason Sanders.
I'm fine with that. And I also could go with any week 6 kickers. If you love them, take them. Week 6 comes your way, cut them, and just pick somebody up for the rest of the year.
What is your thoughts? Because we kind of were on the topic of people kind of crafting like home. Are you I'm you big obviously you're a best ball guy. Are you just
Right.
completely anti defense and kicker in fantasy, or do you think there's still a spot for them in the year 2022?
I would probably eliminate kicker, maybe a team kicker. I mean, I just feel like it's just like such a wasted. Like, there's too much luck box that comes into kickers to me. Like,
Yeah, I feel that way with defense though too.
I'm the
Sometimes
same
it's
way.
both.
If it was up to me, I would eliminate both and just add another flex and let's go.
Fair. Yeah.
You'll really separate the good players from like the bad players, because when you got to put out there every week KJ Hamler, or you got to put out there Jacoby Myers every week, you'll really separate the guys who know what they're doing, or because guys will get to eighth, week 8, week 9, and literally have no clue because they'll have no. With these deep rosters, I feel like you could take the kicker defense out. Let's just go with positions, and I think a lot of people would be happy with that.
For sure. Catching up on a couple of the past rounds. Round 14, Tyrion Davis-Price, McCole Hardman, Jalen Tolbert, Tyler Higbee, Mark Ingram, Brian Robinson, Logan Thomas, Austin Hooper, Eno Benjamin, Deontay Foreman, Tyler Algier, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Obviously, you talked about Wan'Dale a lot. Wan'Dale is my guy, carried Kentucky last year. I want to talk about Brian Robinson. Obviously, got a lot of buzz on past couple of shows. Then the unfortunate shooting happened. There's some rumors, though, he could be back by week 4. I'm kind of buying him at the discount because personally, I'm just feeling as though, right, he's late. He comes back. That's a guy this late. You just kind of store on your bench. And by hopefully midseason, maybe they were back in that rhythm where Brian Robinson was going before Antonio Gibson.
He was.
There is the concern there, but
he was moving up.
By all accounts, he could be relative to what the circumstance was okay this season. So I'm buying that at the discount.
We've agreed on a lot tonight. This is not something I think we're going to agree on. I was very high on him moving up and starting making him a priority in the middle rounds, like the 10th, 11th, wherever he was going, 12th, rounds right before the obviously the terrible shooting that happened.
Yeah,
but I just don't. I mean, it's just a scary. You don't know how the leg's going to react. And the good thing about taking him, if you can get him, I feel like a couple rounds later, you might want to take a shot. You might be fine. I think this is a little bit early for me. Because if Antonio Gibson does turn into a player, I mean, you would think he gets the carries right away.
Yeah, it's weird though, because when you say Antonio Gibson is a player, we've seen it, but I'm just,
it's hard. It's hard because you don't trust anybody on that team. Honestly, I think J.D. McKissic might be the guy you trust the most.
So relative to ADP, what Commanders running? Do you like McKissic the most, or is it still Gibson just because you think he has the most talent that will eventually win out?
Nobody.
No one.
Antonio Gibson, I probably at this point right now, if I really wanted to shoot for the moon, it would be Antonio Gibson. Best ball, J.D. McKissic. I just feel like he has the potential for spike weeks and a good game script. Antonio Gibson probably more in season long. I just feel like he has the upside, and the uncertainty surrounding Brian Robinson. I just don't think Brian Robinson is going to make it on any of my teams as we get closer to the season. I mean, we got a week left. Some of the bigger, main event entries that I'm going to be doing, I don't see Brian Robinson hopping on any team because it's just such an unknown. And he could get out there and that leg just not be moving where it needs to be and literally get shut down for the season because he is just a rookie. He has nothing to prove this year. They can shut him down and get him 100% ready for next year.
Yeah, I see your points. I think they're valid. I just think the upside is there. I'm also just buying into the reports of missed all the major ligaments, missed bones.
Yeah, that's a positive script when it comes to that stuff. But he also doesn't play passing downs.
Yeah, my point is, because when it was starting to happen, I'm like, when he was rising 9th, 10th, I'm like, pump the brakes a little. Kind of back now, settled, just maybe storm late. I'll buy into Brian Robinson maybe because guys love give me that movie script ending. Brian Robinson becomes a thing this year.
I respect that.
Round 15, Robert Tonyan, Justin Fields, Alec Pierce, Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams, again, we talked about on Passion, so I don't want to get into it too much. Another guy is probably missing first 4 to 6 weeks, but dude is a stud. Dude, Jameson Williams is a stud.
He could be a league winner. It's just, do you have the patience to hold on to him for nothing?
Yeah,
there's going to be your patience will be tested. Injuries will happen, and
it's horror drafting guys, Brian Robinson, Jameson Williams, with the intent to hold on to them. And it just feels like you go in, you're like, yep, and then hopefully they'll recover and I'll gauge it. And then just guys
One
come
injury happens and you're like, oh my God, I gotta cut him now.
and you got to. And then they
that's when
break
it
out
burns
when
you.
someone else pick them up and it's just brutal.
Yeah, somebody else gets him for free 2 weeks early, or if they spend a ton of money on him and he's what they think he's gonna be, and then you're sitting there like, wow, that just ruined my season.
Yeah, Jameis Winston. We kind of trashed ESPN. Did you see the clip of the dude on First Take? Now, First Take again, I guess you could maybe view it as
MVP.
like that's not
Scott,
real.
He's an idiot.
We're not real like coverage.
He's a clickbait guy. Like, come on, stop.
Nuts. I love the video though because of how serious. Like he tried to play it off. He's like James Winston, and everyone's like, and then Stephen A. is doing all his faces, just utterly ridiculous.
I'm all about bold takes. I love bold takes. Yeah. But like, be realistic.
What's your boldest take What's your boldest take this fantasy season? I'm putting you on the spot. You can think about it. We can come back.
Not mentioning. Yeah, let me think about that for a second. Okay. I want to not mention anything. I got no Cortland Sutton or no Travis Etienne stuff. I want to try to think of it. Give me something else.
Well, I'll try and think.
I'll think about it. It won't take long.
Marvin Jones.
Go through this round and go through the next round.
Okay, yeah. Marvin Jones, Robbie Anderson, Christian Watson, Isaiah Likely, and then I have a question from the chat about Isaiah Likely. Buffalo defense, Sammy Watkins, Jeff Wilson, Justin Tucker, Tua, Mike Davis, Isaiah Spiller, Evan McPherson, Sony Michel, Brevin Jordan, Noah Fant, Jalen Warren, Corey Davis, and the Chargers defense in the 16th. Question from the chat from Dave Gladstone, I believe, asked it. He was asking us our thoughts on Isaiah Likely. He said, how do you each of you view Isaiah Likely? Reports today and yesterday, like he's going to be the third option. Yeah, and dude, talk about preseason hype, but really hasn't raised the stock at that ridiculous of amount. Isaiah Likely, and the Ravens know how to scout tight end talent. So
15th round,
yeah,
I could definitely see that being a potential, great landing spot for him. I mean, you really can't discount what the Ravens do with tight ends, like you said. So with Likely, no Duvernay, you have no clue. Yeah. All those other guys they have behind them, all questions. They obviously have Andrews. They also obviously have Bateman, but the positive press continues in the 15th round and a potential like maybe Mark Andrews injury, you could be looking at a league winner right here. So I don't see there being any downside whatsoever in taking him where he's going.
I just kind of feel as though we've also seen now Hayden Hurst didn't work out in Baltimore, but they did the 2 tight end sets with him and Andrews when Andrews was starting to break out too as a rookie. They don't really have the receivers, and if Isaiah Likely is as good as we've seen, I think they run a lot of 2 tight end formations. Again, you're in the 15th round. It's a lottery ticket. He's a little more maybe concrete of a role than some of these other guys that we're seeing being taken.
And if he doesn't have the role, just cut him.
So again, you talk about it. I can keep repeating it till I'm blue in the face, but it's you situation wise and upside. You're drafting for upside, and it's there. And at the current price, I'm kind of, I wouldn't say I'm all in on Likely, but I'm all in at Likely at the price. So to answer the question,
I have my bold prediction. I don't know if it's the craziest bold prediction, but it's the first thing that popped in my head.
Sure.
Brandon Ayuk will outscore Deebo Samuel this year.
I mean, yeah, I think that's bold. Is it the boldest I've seen out there? No, because the boldest I've seen out there are people just being idiots trying to hit.
You say Jameis Winston's like going to be the MVP. Like
that's just you being an idiot.
What crossed my mind first was saying Justin Fields would be a top 5 quarterback, but I don't really believe in that.
Okay.
So I think he could be a top 10 quarterback. But
do you dislike? Is it a dislike of Deebo or more of a love of Ayuk?
A love of Ayuk. I just think the Ayuk Lance connection is going to be extremely, extremely tight this year. I think he is going to be the highest scoring 49er on that team, including George Kittle.
Wow.
Something about Ayuk this year has me just ready to go. I mean, I missed him in my first 2 main events that I do. I have a couple left. So he's definitely going to be a target for me. Something about him this year is I'm extremely high on, and you can get the guy in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm.
If Trey Lance turns into be the passer with the ability that he has, obviously rushing, I just feel like Ayuk's going to be the guy that takes the next step, because the Deebo thing that people don't see is, maybe they do, maybe they don't, is Lance is going to take a lot of them rushing touchdowns that Deebo got. So Deebo, even though he got his money, I'll take the Ayuk discount right now. I just think he's going to be a better fantasy player this year.
want to when I do my own I do my own personal rankings, and
So
one of
do
the
I, of
hardest one, all the good fantasy players, but I'm doing it.
course.
Debo is one of the hardest ranks for me because it's one of those, like, in my head I'm like he's
You
top
saw
10,
last year. It's hard. It's hard not to say he's a top 5 receiver.
but
I
it's
mean,
not
you
even
saw
like
he did everything.
it's not even it's just like you do it, you go through, you're like he's top 10, but you don't. I didn't feel like he was. My thing is the leading receiver the second half of that year was, I believe it was Brandon Ayuk, because
It
Debo
was,
generally became a running. There was games where, I mean, I had Debo on my fantasy team last year,
of course, and he killed.
dude. I had Debo and Cup last year, and Deontay. I got that team. No business. No, I don't get. I'm not coming out here to rant about my playoff failures,
It's
but
okay. You can rant. We've all been there.
we've all been there. But Debo was like, there was down the stretch, Debo would have games where he would always have like 2 rushing touchdowns, 70 rushing yards, 1 catch,
Yeah.
and Ayuk was
Just
getting
why
it.
it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Talented player, but him and Jimmy G had that ultimate connection. And yeah, I know Jimmy G's still there, but I don't know if the connection is going to be the same with Trey Lance. And the press has been building positively on Brandon Ayuk in the preseason.
If I'm filling out my like preseason predictions and under like the post type sleeper, like every year there's that guy who's the post type sleeper. They get all the hype, and he would be my answer. I don't know if I'm going as far, because I do think Debo is just more of Debo's yak ability and his the ability to. But then you have those reports, I think, back your case up, where Debo maybe wasn't happy with getting the running back workload. He wanted to preserve his body a little more. I think there's something.
Then he got his money, and now he's okay with it. Like, just something just doesn't fit.
So I like that. That is a bold take. I'm with it. I mean, what I like about it though too is because, again, compared, it's not an idiotic take. It's based in kind of fact, and it's generally kind of is conceivable. Even though I don't think anyone would really be willing to put money down on it per se. But
No.
I like it.
Even I wouldn't, but I think it's a bold take that
Yeah.
has some backing to it. That's not just like, oh yeah, Jameis Winston is going to be the MVP. Like, come on, man. What's your basis of that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so when you say that, at the same point you're watching the show, it's not just Ayuk's better. It's just the Ayuk's value. Then you must think is one of the best values in the draft.
One of the best values out there. I mean, there's a lot of other guys that are right around that range. Like we talked about in the last show. The one guy that people are not talking about that they should be talking about is Christian Kirk, because he has nobody behind him. And Trevor Lawrence peppered him with targets in the preseason, tons of them.
Yeah.
And he got paid.
Yeah.
And you would think they're going to be a bad team, or a bottom half team of the NFL. Trevor Lawrence takes that next step. Christian Kirk's going to be one of the reasons why. So he's another guy that hasn't been talked about at all by anybody, that is just sitting in the 7th, 8th round of drafts, that if you could fill out your roster as him as your 4th guy or even your 3rd guy, sign me up.
Yeah. Round 17 here: Harrison Butker, David Bell, Jamison Crowder, Paris Campbell, Chris Evans, Matt Ryan. Kenny Golladay getting drafted is nuts. New England defense: Tyler Bassett, Matt Prater, Randall Cobb, and Amir Abdullah, who we talked about earlier. Kenny Golladay, one of the more wild drop-offs I've seen from a player, and I do think some of it is just
good in Detroit.
I think some of it is injury. I think he's obviously had issues, I think, with the hip.
He's mentally checked out,
and he just is done.
He knows his money's still there, so he's like make it out to be like he's trying to battle. But the fall from grace of Kenny Golladay was like, he was oh my God,
dude. His nickname was Babytron. Like he was
so talented. Even when he went to New York, I'm like, all right, this guy's gonna be a great fit for them. Yeah. It just seems like the perfect fit. He literally, watching them in preseason highlights, he literally looks awful. Like, awful is probably being generous, what I really want to say about him. He literally looks like he quit, not blocking, not doing anything. Like, it's sad.
We got a question in the chat that I want to get to because we talked about it a bit earlier. Ronnie's asking, can you guys hit a little bit more on the drafts after the Thursday game? We talked about the boost it gets. How much stock do people put on a top guy having a below average first game? I think that's a good question, because
people don't really understand that Thursday game, especially like if you look at a game like last year, Bucks Cowboys. Amari Cooper was nuts. Went nuts in that game. 30+ points, I believe, fantasy points. First round pick. He went, I think, as high as like 5th or 6th overall in some drafts after Thursday. But it also can affect you in a negative way. I mean, if Stephon Diggs, for instance, goes out there and goes, Jalen Ramsey just shuts him down. 1 for 10, let's just hypothetically say.
Yeah.
There's a great chance that if you're sitting there with the first pick or second pick, that Stephon Diggs can fall all the way back to you because people are scared to go by 0-1. They're petrified of the 0-1 and being against like a Amari Cooper type of situation. So they see, oh my God, Stephon Diggs got 2 points. I'm passing him. Next guy passing him. Next guy passing him. You're sitting there with Christian McCaffrey in the #1 pick and like, oh my God, Stephon Diggs is on the board. So it could literally just work out perfectly for you because we all know Stephon Diggs isn't going to do that all season. So you could build some super teams with the Friday game. I mean, the Thursday game, drafting after Friday, Saturday. I think it's definitely something that's very, very underrated because Allen Robinson, for instance, he goes off and has 10 for 120 and 2 TDs. Allen Robinson's going to go in the first round in some drafts. Should he go in the first round? No. But people are scared to go down 35 points.
It's natural human instinct almost.
And also, if Allen Robinson goes out there and goes 1 for 15, that 3rd, 4th round pick that he's been going like in a couple drafts goes down to the 5th or 6th to the 7th maybe in some drafts. So you could be, like I said, you could be building you could be staring at Allen Robinson in the 7th round going, why is he here? And guess what? You just don't start him week 1. That's the one good thing about the FFPC. Yeah. If you have a Thursday game and you have guys starting, stockpile them all in there, especially in the main event. Put them all in there because if they stink, take them out. Start somebody else.
Yeah, I think it's just, as I was saying, it's just kind of natural human instinct. Sometimes it's tough drafting a guy who stinks in that first game.
You either want it to be a big time shootout or just an average game. You don't want like the middle ground because the middle ground kind of messes things up because you see guys who like, let me think of a guy off the top of my head that could be in that game. Isaiah McKenzie or like Shakur or somebody like that. James Cook is another good example. James Cook, I'll go James Cook. Let's say James Cook breaks a 90-yard touchdown, has a couple catches, and puts up 20, 25 points. Where does Devin Singletary fall to?
Yeah.
Does Zach Moss even get drafted?
And we know that backfield's going to kind of be rotating.
And also, does James Cook go in the 2nd round?
Yeah.
Is somebody crazy enough to move him up that high?
I think it's hard to process until you see it in Vegas. And
because you're gonna be sitting there on the clock going, okay, I got James Cook versus James Conner. James Cook looked great in a great offense. Just put up 25 points. Do I take him in the 3rd round, get the guaranteed 25? Or do I take James Conner with a lot of unknown and a little bit of a dead zone? Trust me, when you're on the clock, it makes you think a lot more because then you're looking at the guy next to you. He has Allen Robinson already. He has 30 points. Do I take James Cook to offset him? It's a huge. It's fun. I like drafting after the Thursday game because if you know what you're doing, you can really take advantage of spots because guys get so obsessed with those points in that game that they can really make some big mistakes if you just destroy it. Amari Cooper 1st round. There's not a single Amari Cooper 1st round, 2nd round team last year that made it anywhere.
Yeah. No, and Ronnie said in the chat, he just asked you like before or after, and you just said you like it after. And
I like it after, yeah.
As we talked about, we've mentioned it here and there, and we posted on Twitter. What's going to be nice is for the first time, at least to my knowledge, the first time, we're going to be broadcasting some of those drafts live, those in-person drafts. We're going to have the board up, and you and me will be commenting on a couple of those drafts.
It'll definitely be a good time.
Yeah, the couple of the High Society draft, $10,000 entry. The Bare Knuckle League seems sick.
It's a fun league. I mean, you just sit there and watch around it. No cheat sheets. No
laptops, no notes, nothing.
No cell phones, nothing. You just sit there and draft.
28 rounds.
And these guys have been drinking through the party. They're all liquored up. Guys have been out all day, and they're going in there just winging it. And you see some picks that you're just like, wow. Like after the first couple rounds, like it gets like, if you really know what you're doing and like depth, you could really do very well in that league.
And you and me will be on the call for that. I was looking at them like I love fantasy. I know fantasy. I don't think I could do a 28 round draft without any notes. I would be just absolutely last 5 rounds. No one.
You have to concentrate so early, like on like picks and just like guys you love and just take them and just hope that you remember somebody that falls because I'm sure that people go undrafted that you're like I'm going to use KJ Osborne as an example. Yeah. We'll go undrafted and you're just like, what the heck? Like, can I imagine a KJ Osborne in the 17th round instead of my 28th round Zach Pascal because I'm an Eagles fan and I knew the Eagles.
Yeah. That draft will be fun, and I'm sure we'll do one main event either that Friday
we'll
or
definitely
Saturday.
mix in a main event because
just
they're
to
always
show.
fun. They always have a lot of characters. A lot of guys get dressed up for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, guys have been drinking. They're late. I mean,
and at minimum, we want to show that the effects of that Thursday game, and we talked about it prior to getting on the show. Coming in last year, it was Bucks Cowboys. This year, Rams Bills. You're getting two great offenses, so there's guaranteed
offense. And if it's a high scoring game and a shootout, Josh Allen, another example. What if Josh Allen goes up there and puts a 30-40 burger out there?
Yeah.
He's going to sneak in the second round and maybe higher because they don't want to be behind 30 points to start the week. So they're going to reach up and take Josh Allen, and that's going to destroy rosters. But to each their own.
I mean, that's going to be exciting, and we are looking forward to broadcasting that. Still working out the exact details of when and how we are exactly going to. We're as we're saying, most concerned trying to fit in the draft board, but we'll get some form of live coverage out there. Back to the draft at hand. Last couple of rounds here. I want to ask you about a name. Again, he's not going to be fantasy relevant for the year. 18th round. Someone other than Lamar is going to be running the ball for the Ravens. Mike Davis went in the 16th. No, Mike Davis.
Mike Davis.
I was a guy who I'm on the stream.
You were not one of those guys. I lost it on your first show. Just pick another topic. Don't say you were a Mike Davis guy last year.
I wasn't a Mike Davis guy.
Fast forward.
Kenyon Drake, 18th round. Any value for those just first couple of weeks and then you drop
for the first couple of weeks? He definitely has some value. He's definitely a guy that will get plenty of carries in that offense on a running team. Definitely, if you can 18th round, if you have somebody up top like a Breece Hall or somebody like that you might have a little more questions about, Kenyon Drake might have a little more of a secure. It's going to be him and Mike Davis, especially if Dobbins isn't ready. So I like the pick there in the 18th round, and he's definitely a guy that in 2-3 weeks, guess what? You're going to cut him. So he's not going to hurt you in any way, and he's definitely will give you plenty of availability out there on the waiver wire because he's not going to be a long-term guy there.
Yeah, two running backs in this last couple of rounds. I do like the Jordan Mason pick too. I mean, again, who knows how long he's going to be on your team because who knows how long it's going to take to break through. But we've seen those Niners running backs come out of nowhere. Elijah Mitchell week 1 last year. Raheem Mostert a couple of years back was also week 1. Like
Patterson, you can go down the list. Like always take darts. Like give me the Jordan Masons of the world, the Dontrell Hillards, even though I like Haskins, but still. What is Samai Piedrine going to do for your team?
Yeah, he's not even the backup.
What is Zach Moss going to do for your team?
Samaje Perine isn't even the backup.
Chris Evans is going to be more of a secure role. I just drafted him in my draft today in the 20th round. I just feel like he has the upside with the pass catching ability. Perine, like when are you starting? Let's just say Joe Mixon gets hurt. Are you ever going to plug Perine in? I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Zach Moss is just a terrible 20th round pick, an absolutely terrible 20th round pick.
What's surprising to me is I very well could be missing something. I don't think I missed him in the first 9 rounds. Damian Williams hasn't been drafted. Talk about a dart. I know he's not the sexy dart.
100% dart.
Like he's not.
Cordell Patterson, who they don't want to be.
Yeah, they
the
don't
guy that he was last year.
As we said,
Algier.
Nothing good, as we said last show. No. Damian Williams should be drafted, and
he should be. He should be.
You can make sure
guy. And also a guy that could be cuttable.
Yeah, dude. It's again, you're in the 19th, 20th round. Just take
and he's flashed in his career. Damian
Super Bowl MVP. He should have been a Super Bowl MVP.
He definitely has flashed enough to where he should be drafted.
Yeah, I might be
over Zach Moss.
I might be missing something. I don't see him. I'm pretty sure he hasn't been drafted. Like Darrell Williams. Darrell again.
No
why are we drafting third running backs? Like why are we drafting guys who are third running backs on their team? Crazy to me. Donovan Peoples-Jones just went.
Great dart throw.
Again, like we're talking about the dart throws, but it's just that team also took Kenny to Galladay in round 17. But here's my thing with Donovan Peoples-Jones, and I think again it goes back to an earlier conversation. It's really tough because you're probably not holding on to him until week 12. But when Watson comes back, even if you're looking at the 2023, those Browns receivers, if David Bell somehow carves out a role, if I believe Amari's still there, like I'm intrigued to see their 2023 draft stock and how they do with Watson. Because
all of them, do they add a rookie?
Yeah.
I mean, they invested so much into Deshaun Watson already. So they're going to try to obviously get him as much, pass catches as possible.
I mean, and Andrew Berry comes from the Howie Roseman school of trading. So I would not shock me if they trade for a receiver on the block. Oh, they listen to us. Great pick.
Heard.
Like Damian Williams, I genuinely feel in this round is one of the best, like the last 3 rounds is one of the best bets you can make because Arthur Smith wants to run the ball.
100%. And they have nobody there. I don't understand how they have not added somebody. Nothing. Like Algier has showed me 0.
Nothing.
Cordell Patterson is not a guy that you're going to just continue to pop carries in.
I like Cordell too.
So do I. I like him too. He's a guy that I've been coming around on a lot more than I had before.
Because the value, 2 kickers.
And Rex Burkhead. Like Rex Burkhead, great story. But I know he's the backup in Houston, but if you're starting Rex Burkhead, man, I feel like he's a $55 free agent pickup for the week. And if somebody wants a bit more, then I guess you lose to Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, Rex Burkhead may be one of the strangest, like, great performances last year.
Doesn't make sense. I mean, he was definitely
weird.
There, Trey Sermon.
Hey, let's talk about it. Jordan Howard 2.0 or no?
No.
Not that Jordan Howard 2.0 is any relevant.
The only thing he has going for him is one thing. He was a teammate of Jalen Hurts in Oklahoma.
Literally the only thing I remember about Trey Sermon last year was the carry against the Eagles when he died on the field.
Literally died.
Destroyed.
It was an abomination. He can't make a team that's a running team when it's realistically nobody there. So, yeah, I'm not on the train. Trey Sermon.
Draft is done. I'm going to scroll back to the top here for you. Let's look. I want to go back to because we team 2 who we were loving. How'd they finish off? Sanders and Robinson. But
the running backs are the question. I mean, let's just call it what it is with team 2. I mean, you don't have a clear number 1. You don't even have like a Tony Pollard has the upside. Miles Sanders question. James Robinson, I'm not touching him. Mostert is the guy that I would draft a little bit more. He has a clear role, with Chase Edmonds. He's definitely going to be the number 2 guy. There's really nobody behind him. But after that, we talked about Algier. He's a bum, but two could have been a lot better in my opinion.
Give me team 5. Chase, CD, Mike Evans, Robinson, Dylan
the upside
Dobbins.
With Gibson, Carter, Herbert, Prescott with Lamb. The tight ends are a question. Obviously, Hunter Henry and a couple guys they drafted after. So you got to find one. Austin Hooper, not thrilled with it. Brevin Jordan, though, a lot of potential there. Give me 5. Can you go back up to 12? I want to see. I think 12 might be my winner of this draft.
I like 5 and 12 look like they got a lot of the guys we've talked about.
5 and 12, definitely. Team 10, I know. What was that other team we were making fun of? Team 8.
6. 6 was 6.
They start off with Cook and Swift and literally just went off a cliff.
Yeah. Eckler, Chubb, Kittle, Waddle, DK, Akers.
Like your 4 receivers are Allen, Thielen,
Jacoby
Lockett,
Myers,
Wilson, Landry.
We were talking about don't draft Patriots receivers. They took Jacoby Myers in the 13th, Logan Thomas, bum, Van Jefferson, Sony, bad football player. Kenyon Drake has some value. Yeah, there was some bad drafts here. We were lucky that these teams were lucky that we got sidetracked down the stretch talking about some of our
seriously. We were pretty mean early on, but then we got off topic a little bit, which probably helped all them because some of these teams they're drawing dead before they even start.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to be a little nicer lately, but it's hard.
Nah, don't be nice. Nice doesn't bring in views for us. Terp being mean. Give me team 5 because I like the
give me. I'll take team 12 to be different, but team 5 is right there.
I'd love
team
to.
12. Team 12 had a lot of guys that I like.
We're gonna have to do a review at the end of the season. I'll find these leagues and then we'll clip all the teams that you just destroyed, and we'll show how they won the league.
I'll guarantee without a shadow of a doubt there might be out of all. We'll just say 10 teams that I destroyed.
Yeah,
one of them might be in the running. I would be shocked because some of these teams have just been bad. And this is a draft like we keep talking about that's just going on right now. Sunday before the season, there's plenty of leagues that are left. Jump in, $350. You get the discount for 3 of them for $1,000. I mean, the first prize $500,000. We have the main event. I know the entry fee might scare you, and that's okay. $2,000 is a lot of money. Get a couple buddies together. The guys that won it last year, there's 3 of them. they took down $500,000. So
and Terp, you know what else is a lot of money? $1 million.
$1 million. I mean, you got a chance at $1 million to play fantasy football, and you got plenty of chances to win a league. You literally have plenty of money out there to win a league. Come in the top 2 in your league in the regular season, and you got your money back and plenty of money to play around with, and a chance at life-changing money. Top 3 positions: $100,000, $200,000, $1 million.
For sure.
I mean,
you
can't really go wrong with
that.
Get there. Best ball, $125. Still, some entries left in there. All these will fill. We're very confident everything will fill. Get over there before the entries run out. You have drafts going all the way till Saturday night. I know after the first game, don't be scared of that. We talked about how fun that is afterward, but there's plenty of opportunities out there to make life-changing money at different price points. Just get there. It's the best contest around, and you'll see why very quickly.
We have myffpc.com, main event, $1 million grand prize. This draft that we just covered, the Footballguys Players Championship, $500,000 grand prize, $4.3 million total prize pool. The best ball tournament, $200,000 grand prize. The best ball, keep in mind, I know Balky's reminded, best ball ends on Thursday. You don't get the post Thursday game, so get those slots are going. That's going to sell 100%. Out sooner or later. So
I'll definitely sell out. My guess is by early Wednesday morning. So
get in there for sure. Also,
your chances.
Also of note, do you have till Monday morning when I go do it on our Twitter? There's a just simple retweet and a like, and you must be following our Twitter. You get entry for a free best ball team. Odds
free chance of $230,000 for doing nothing.
Just go do that on the Twitter. And then my last note before we get on out of here is, as we kind of mentioned earlier, live draft coverage live from Las Vegas is coming.
Doesn't get any better than that.
We'll drop more information about that early this week in the next couple of days. But that's going to do it for myself, Dave Terp. Thank you guys for joining me. And
great first show. You did a hell of a job.
Thank you, sir. And we'll see you tomorrow night. I don't know if it's me or if it's Balky, but one of us, we're doing one more live, at least virtual, not in Vegas. We're doing a main event. So we'll do that
sir.
Tomorrow. To everyone who's viewed, commented, thank you. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Have a great day.